Hi, everybody. Welcome again to another Friday edition live on a show called Green Rush Live. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media. I will be hosting today. And if anybody knows anything about me or knows me personally at all, they know that I love to surround myself with smart, beautiful women. And we're going to be talking about women in cannabis today on this show. And I think we've got 11 people, 11 beautiful, smart women ready to expound on how challenging it is to be in the cannabis industry if you happen to be female. And I'm excited about our first guest. That's going to be Leah Daniels from the Alchemy League. And she also brought along Bill Flynn, so I'm not going to be the only guy on this show, which I really appreciate. Bill, hold on for a second. I want to run through this roster. I've got Sarah Falvo, who's with Arcview. She is the Managing Director of Business Development for Arcview. Jackie Bryant, one of our favorites on this show, the woman who's now the editor of San Diego Magazine and the author of the newsletter, The Cannabis. That's why we like Jackie. That's why we like Jackie, among other reasons. We also have Jillian Xavier. She's the founder of DREGLO Edibles. I know I've got another attorney. It's Heidi. And she'll be here at 4:30 as well. I'm sorry, I can't see her last name, but I know she's over there. And then at 5 o'clock, we've got Brooke Butler from Simplifya. We've got Debbie Churgai, I'm hoping that's correct, from Americans for Safe Access to Cannabis. Brooke Westlake, the founder and owner of the Women in Cannabis Expo, and a favorite of ours here on this show, and our Pennsylvania Weed Talk News correspondent, Claudia Post, will be joining us at 5 o'clock as well. And then to wrap up the show from 5:30 to 6, the one and only Tanya Griffin is with us. Yes, indeed. She's the founder, CEO, Grand Poobah of oOYes.love. And we'll get into that a little bit. Marisa Prana is with us, ButterflyPrana. And Brianna Bows. Oh, no, that's Brianna Bows, definitely the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. All right, let's bring in Leah Daniels from the Alchemy League and her CEO, Bill Flynn now. Guys, guy and gal, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, thank you, Jimmy, for having me.
And Leah, I just want to say, you touch all the bases when it comes to Pride Week, because Pride Month here, because of course, you wave the flag as on so many boxes. LGBTQ community, owner, business person, veteran, mom. Am I right, mom?
Me? No. Gay.
No, mom. No,
Don't leave out gay.
Bill, are you a mom? Bill, are you a mom?
No, I'm not a mom. I'm a dad.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Leah, thank you so much for joining us, and Bill Flynn, I appreciate it. Leah, tell us a little bit about the Alchemy League, who you are, and why I'm so excited to be talking with you today.
Oh, wow, Jimmy. First of all, let me just say thank you. I've always enjoyed you. You interviewed me the very first time that they issued me my provisional license from the Cannabis Control Commission. You've been following my journey and my story from the time that I had to actually stand before them when Bill and Mascan were prepared to bail me out. So first things first, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me say hello. I like to start off my day with being fired up and ready to go. So I am still fired up and ready to go. So let's get started. Alchemy League. Well, it is turning something, or nothing, should I say, into something. Originally, when I began this journey for cannabis, can you see me? I want to make sure I can be seen. When I originally started this journey for cannabis,
we can hear you for sure.
I started it for my community. My community being the Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Boston urban community. I was told by the CCC that I wasn't a suitable enough candidate, and therein lies the reason how Bill Flynn and I got engaged with each other. Mascan at the time had to stand up and actually prop me up because the fear of it all, standing up against the cosm of cannabis would be the CCC. Bill Flynn and Mascan backed me and my organization to the point to where they came to the meeting with bail money. Because the CCC was prepared to lock me up and arrest me for protesting against the fact that people of color, people that looked like me, people that represented a particular community was not being represented in this cannabis arena. So first of all, Bill Flynn, let me say thank you. Thank you for all your love and your support and guiding me and supporting and nurturing me through this long journey. Nevertheless, let me be perfectly clear. Alchemy League is still self-funded, still only in the control of Leah Daniels. We now have 7 cannabis licenses. We have a retail license. We have a medical vertical integration license. I believe I'm the only economic empowerment candidate with one in the state of Massachusetts. We have a tier 9 cultivation. We have product manufacturing. We have wholesale delivery. We have courier delivery. And I don't know what else. Bill will tell you the rest. But I'm here to tell you.
I can summarize that and just say you're vertically integrated.
Right?
Yeah. Well, we're vertically integrated with a lot of caveats that most vertically integrated cannabis companies do not have. We have the caveat of wholesale delivery.
Bill,
we have the caveat of courier.
We may have to call 911 for Bill. Bill, are you okay?
I'm all right, sir.
All right.
I'm okay.
Hey, let's let Bill talk a little bit about the Alchemy because he's working with you right now. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right, because I know the energy you have. If I threw you one question and 5 minutes later, it's time to get back and forth on this thing. But it's okay. I got you, girl. I got you. Bill, tell us why you wanted to get involved with Leah Daniels.
Well, it goes back to me being former president of the Mass Cannabis Reform Coalition. This is a project that I got in back in '94 on a group of friends. Figure we're going to try and change the cannabis laws here in Massachusetts, which yes, we did. We started out strong with decrim in 2008 and followed up with a back and forth with medical in 2014. And then moving forward, we had what was called Bay State repeal, given cannabis growing more or less to everybody, not just big box companies coming into town. And it was a push to that. Again, they were trying to eliminate the underground. And this is given the average person, so an average grower, somebody that can put a few $1,000s together, be able to grow, have it tested, and be able to package it if it passes, and be able to sell it. And as you can tell, it didn't go that way. Big box came in and told us how we should do it, and this is what we ended up with. But there was a group, as Leah said, there's an economic empowerment group. Again, I was involved in that too. I'm part of that. And there was only 100 and I believe 22 people that were in that spectrum. And again, I was figuring that the people that are getting involved are going to help people like Leah and I to get involved. And Leah jumped right in. Leah was one of the first ones to get involved, full stretch, where everybody else was like looking for, money, funding. And Leah just had her blinders on and kept going. She was at all the events, giving her support of what everybody was trying to do, and putting her brand out there along with her partner Jay, and being very successful with it too.
I think we actually have. If we cut to Leah now, we'll actually see Jay in the background because we do know who the brains of that family are. Oh, did I say that? I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Leah, hey guys, you touch all the boxes. We talked about that. All right. What is the one thing that drives you to success in your own backyard?
Ooh, I would just say sheer determination. When you grow up in an environment where everything and everyone is pounding against you, you have no choice but to put, as Bill would say, put your blinders on and have your own sheer goals, aspirations, and determination. There's a few things people don't know about me. My mother died when I was 3. So I have been on my own personal grind and aspirations, I think, since then, because I grew up without that. Not that I wasn't nurtured. My grandmother loved me to death, but there is nothing like your mother's love. And so for me, my goals and aspirations was to make sure that my community didn't feel the way I felt without a mother's love. So I nurture my community, I nurture my people, and I nurture this opportunity to bring that kind of energy to my community.
There you go. Hey, Bill, what's the latest on the Alchemy League? I know one thing about any state cannabis commission, you think you're going to open on this date, and you might as well just add on another 3 months after that, because nothing happens fast in the cannabis space. What is the target date to open for Alchemy League?
I believe we're trying to shoot for the end of June, but looking at the way things go, as you were saying, there's a hurdle here, a speed bump there, a hole dug there.
Right.
different
Fence.
things. Yeah, a fence goes here, a fence goes there, and it's been taxing. Okay, I know people who started out in the game all gung-ho. They had the money, but they lost a lot of money paying rent for a space that they couldn't do any production in because they were waiting. This whole CCC thing, trying to get applications run through for everybody, they're severely behind, and it's costing people money. And it's hurting families, because I'm sure these people that are reaching out to other people to get their funding, and it's taxing.
Right. And
Well,
speaking of
Leah,
taxes, it also means if you're not open, it also means that the state is not generating taxes off your sale.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're jumping out to really help either.
Right.
Leah has her own backing, and it's still, there's always that little hurdle that's coming up. But as I told her, I said, you hang tough. I said, it might not happen, but it's happening. Like I said, she's making moves.
Yes.
And
I get out of the way when that happens, by the way.
Oh yeah. I said she reached out to me a couple of times, and I just wasn't in a position to help out. I got involved with her at the beginning of May, and just before Mother's Day, which was kind of a big deal weekend for me. And just the whole thing, like I said, nobody's knocking her down. She's not letting anybody knock her down. She's got her blinders on, and she's focused. She's determined to do this. And why not be a part of this? Why not? She is a friend. She's been very good to me. And yeah, I'll help her along the way, and that's what I'm going to try and do. But I think
by the way, that's what this industry is all about. I believe is more collaboration than competition, because everybody has to go through the same thing that you all are going through as well.
Yeah.
And one thing I do want to make sure that we have time to talk about is the G.I.F.T program, the Green Industry Funded Training, Leah, that you're involved with. Can you explain what you do with that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, Jimmy, so G.I.F.T started off 12 years ago. Actually, 2009. Yeah, it's about 12 years, like 9 times. Yeah. 12 years ago in the insulation weatherization industry. I'm a licensed general contractor in the state and a code compliance inspector that does energy conservation inspections. And so I transformed G.I.F.T, which was for green industry, insulation, weatherization, environment, into now literally, figuratively, green being cannabis. What I realized was that we don't have a program for business entrepreneurs. We got plenty of programs for people that want to work, you want to be a bud tender, you want to be a cultivator, you want to work for someone, 999 programs. You want to work for yourself? 0. So G.I.F.T, Green Industry Funded Training, is a program for entrepreneurs to train, guide, and build themselves and their businesses up. And Alchemy League is prepared to assist them in that journey.
There you go. And what's your target date to open, Leah? Bill said maybe the end of June, but realistically, is it mid-July? Is it August?
Jimmy, my target date to open was July 2020. Unfortunately, COVID happened.
Wow.
So my target date to open, honestly, is December of 2022.
Okay, gotcha.
I hope to have a whole lot of gifts and Christmas presents for you all.
There you go. And are you growing right now?
Right now, we are doing our genetic curation. We're making sure that we have some of the best genetics. We are really concerned with providing real medical cannabis curating for our patients to make sure that they just don't walk in and buy whatever cookie cutter product we have on the shelves, that we actually create medicinal medicine for our patients.
That's fantastic. Bill, this plant is about bringing people together, isn't it?
Sure.
Isn't that
Oh,
what it's
yeah.
about?
Yes. Yes.
And doesn't Leah do a great job of bringing everyone together, no matter where she goes? Am I right?
I think so. I think so. She's full of energy. She's always smiling. Like I said, she's got focus. She's got determination, discipline, and she knows where she wants to be. She has a lot of irons in the fire. I'll tell you that right now. And she seems to be managing it. A lot of plates spinning, so to speak. But you know, it's like I said, it's going to happen. It's just like I said, we're the little guy. So there's always going to be that somebody, like I said, try to make it a competition or in their own world where we're there to work with everybody. We're here to help. And that's basically the idea is spread that knowledge, have that conversation, keep that conversation alive of what's going on with cannabis in Massachusetts, but all around the world.
Yeah.
You know, it's no longer be afraid of this.
Right. And you know, I was at an event in Albany, New York, for the NCIA was doing a barnstorming membership drive, and Aaron Smith happened to be in Albany, and I met Aaron. He's the executive director of the NCIA 3 years ago. So I took the drive out to Albany on Wednesday, sat down with him. And one of the things that he talked about is the mantra of everybody in this business has an obligation to continue to educate those who have no clue about this plant. Leah, I know you're a great advocate for that.
I think that education is the key. I think that we have been so miseducated and so misinformed about what this plant can do medicinally and has done for our community forever, for its eternity. And so in order for us to transition their understanding, we have to be the ones to educate. So we went all the way back old school because we know seniors are the ones that most of us listen to. They have most of the knowledge. So what we're doing right now is educating our seniors. They're not quite the young spring chickens they used to be, but they're still clucking around. And so what we want to do is make sure that everyone understands, especially from a senior's perspective, to begin to re-educate our community. They can then pass that knowledge down generationally to the younger people. And then now we can then bring in that underage generation to understand what utilizing cannabis will do in their future.
So you mentioned chickens, okay? And I remember the last time hanging out with you during the Celtics playoff game a couple of weeks ago, you told me that you're up at about 4 a.m. hanging out with the chickens. Am I right? That's so true. My wife and I, my wife takes very good care of me. We go from farm to table. And back when COVID started, my wife and I went and purchased chickens so we could have fresh, healthy eggs. We started our farm. We started our bees. We also have a new brand that's coming out called the Chicken Walkers, okay? Because they are not clucking around. Okay, it's time for the older generation to educate this generation and for us to begin this journey. Now, dog walkers are for the younger generation that want to, like Bill smoking now, want to walk the dog around the block. But when you get 88, you don't get around the block. You get to the corner light and you get back to the dog. And so that's why we created chicken walkers, because they are not quite the spring chickens they used to be, but they still clucking around. I'll tell you what, nobody is, no, there are no more spring chickens because pretty much sucks getting old. When you get right down to it, really sucks getting old. Hey,
Excuse me.
Daniels and Bill Flynn from the Alchemy League, I really appreciate you taking the time out on a Friday. I know it was short notice, but I love you all. I can't wait.
Love you too, Jimmy.
Your opening day. Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
be there with bells on and our
I
cameras.
hope so. It's great to see you, Jimmy.
Great to see you.
Jimmy,
Bill.
can I say one more thing? Hey, Jimmy, can I say one more thing?
You think I'm going to
okay,
stop you
so-
now? Go ahead.
Well, so our THC dispensary is not open, but our CBD store is. And you can please find us because we do deliver all of our CBD products at queencures.com. And all of our CBD products are online and available for you along with testimony. Jimmy, you were there in New Jersey. You know how our products work. And we'll leave it at that. We look forward to seeing you all soon. And we plan on making the best weed comes from Alchemy League.
There you go. Hey, obviously we're a
Good
little
job.
late for our 420 break. It didn't stop Bill Flynn. Everybody can fire up wherever they need to go. It is Friday afternoon. It's Green Rush Live. We're going to take our regular 420 break now, and we'll be back on the other side with more talk about women in the cannabis industry.
Ciao, Jimmy.
Yeah, this is a tune that I wrote back in 19... I'd forgotten. We had a saying in our old band, one of my first bands in 1966 or so. What are you gonna do tonight? Oh, just, you know, like every other night, just gonna lay around the shanty and put a good buzz on. Gonna sit down in the kitchen, fix me something good to eat. Make my head a little high, make the whole day complete. Gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. Pass it to me, baby, pass it to me slow. We'll take time out to smile a little before you let her go. We're gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. You're on something. Go ahead. Rick Brodsky, everybody. Nothing to do and there's always room for more. Fill it, light it, shut up and close that door, baby. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. Take it, okay. Prohibition never works, it's time to realize it. It grows in my backyard, it's time to legalize it. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. sit down in my rented car. I'm gonna jam it into drive. Gonna head on out and play at WSCA with Sean. I'm glad I'm alive. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on every night and day. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on.
Nice. It's Friday. Thank God. Thank God Jonathan Edwards is joining us live in the WSCA studios.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information. Internet on the Pro Cannabis Media Network. As you know, we always encourage you all to like, share, and subscribe, not only to the Green Rush Live, but all of our shows. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube, or perhaps you should be watching on YouTube, you can actually subscribe to us there, because we're only 480 subscribers away from 10,000. And our goal was to hit that 10,000 mark by the end of this year. So we'd really like to share this with all of your friends. Please like, share, subscribe. You know how it works. I'm Jimmy Young, by the way, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media. And I'm so happy to have two people in the studio, well, actually in our little Zoom studio with me today. One is Sarah Falvo from Arcview. Sarah, good to see you. And Heidi Urness, an attorney. Also, well, she was born and raised in Chicago. You went to Wake Forest. Heidi, but you're an attorney. Tell us a little bit about what the work that you're doing in your law firm, and then we'll get back to Sarah to hear about her Women in Inclusion event that she's involved with. Go ahead.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I think we're going to have a lot of overlaps here. So thank you for the invitation to kick this off. You know, I have been running my own law firm serving the cannabis industry exclusively for the last about 5 years now. And I've been involved in the industry with a firm prior to that. But there's been a lot of changes in the industry, a lot that we could anticipate and a lot that we could not. And one of the reasons that I chose to join a national law firm now and to chair their cannabis practice is because a lot of the issues that we do see in the industry, I think can be remedied in major ways by putting women back into leadership positions in these companies. Everything from the success of the companies to more equitable distributions of financing options to the pure products available to the consumers who want to have them. We were just having a chat a moment ago about an innovative product that you had just heard about. And yes, women really do drive that innovation. So for me, I was looking for a firm where I could really deploy a lot of top level expert resources into this industry with my existing connections and it was important to put women in those roles, not only to serve the industry, but to also make sure that my clients are successful. And we find that when you have women service providers and when you have people who are women leading your business, you're more successful.
Right. And by the way, that's why we do this show, because Sarah, I'm sure you can attest to this stat. I'm pretty sure it was about 4 years ago that there was about 27% women in C-level positions in cannabis. And that number has now gone down to single digits, right? So Sarah, tell us a little bit about Arcview, what you do for them and your women inclusion event. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So Arcview's been around for a while, almost a dozen years now, which is wild. We started off as being the place to go to connect capital to those in the industry who were seeking it. Things have grown over the last few years, especially with the pandemic. So we've launched a couple other divisions, including our consulting division, which I also work on, and our capital group. We have our venture fund run by Jeff Finkel and Jean Sullivan. And we also have our Women's Inclusion Network. So this was actually launched as a formal membership group about a little less than 2 years ago. So we have over 250 women from the cannabis industry in the group. They come from all verticals and even just the canna curious who are looking to get into the space. And what we do with this group is really arm these women with the tools they need to succeed. So whether that's launching a business from scratch, scaling into other states, raising capital, or just general support, that's what we're here for. So we do that through various programmings and connections. And Heidi said it before, utilizing our connections. That's really what this is all about. And I think, women tend to do that very well. So it's just exciting. And we're actually having an event on Thursday for the group, which I'm so excited about.
All right. That's a good tease. That's what they say in television, right? That's a good tease. Hold that thought. We'll make sure we get your plugs in on that. To me, and you mentioned this, Sarah, just now, it's access to capital that seems to be the real barrier to entry into the cannabis industry for whether you're an ancillary product or a plant touching product. Heidi, you're now in Washington State, am I right?
Yes, my office is in Washington, yes, but we practice in more than 30 states.
Right, and that was the first one in, as they say. And we have a guy named Josh Kincaid who does the talking hedge out there. Mm-hmm. And, he tells us about, even though they were the first ones in, it's almost like they have to undo what got them to the starting line. Now, this is no disrespect to the community. I would be happy to have it legalized. The federal government is not ready to legalize this product. Nobody has confidence in our federal government right now to even pass something that, I don't know, doesn't have anything to do with cannabis, but let's just keep moving on that, okay? Heidi, what is the atmosphere as far as changing things for the better in Washington State?
That's amazing that you're really dialing in on that, because it's definitely something that the West Coast is sensing and feeling with all of this enthusiasm about what's happening on the East Coast. And you're absolutely right. Early on, there was a lot of litigation we did that was it was impact litigation because the regulations were new and the regulators themselves were making mistakes. So businesses entered into business plans, various contracts, various financing agreements that made sense under the existing regulations, but now they've changed the game. And in a lot of times, in a lot of situations, we're finding our clients have their hands tied behind their backs at this point. There's no ability for them to discharge some of their obligations under several, their loan agreements, their lease agreements, things like that made sense under the existing structure before. There's no way out. So we are seeing a lot of receivership, which is the state version of bankruptcy. And we are seeing, for the people who do have successful assets and businesses, we're seeing a lot of turnover. I'm calling it the great turnover right now. A lot of these individuals who are awarded the licenses pursuant to the lotteries 7 to 10 years ago are now turning them over to more well-financed, often more business savvy individuals who may not be in it for the love of the plant, but hopefully are still going to maintain some of that authenticity. But you're right, if you enter into agreements that don't look down the road, if you enter into agreements that don't see around potential corners, if you're not anticipating what the regulations could be, then you are entering into an agreement that is going to hamstring your business in the future and might subject you to personal liability. So, I would love to be able to take some of those mistakes that we learned, no fault to the industry participants themselves, none. and take those insights and bring them to the East Coast, avoid those problems in the future, and really see a robust and healthy industry that isn't suffering those setbacks that a lot of the pioneers of the legal markets really suffered on behalf of the industry on the West Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're starting to hear signs of investment dollars slowing down, at least going into that cannabis space. Everybody's kind of looking over their shoulder. Is that recession coming or not? You know, everybody's kind of wary about that. Sarah, you're nodding your head. Access to capital continues to be the barrier to entry. Are there any funds out there that are specifically earmarked for women-run enterprises?
There are definitely more funds coming about that are investing more thoughtfully and on kind of those terms. So there definitely are. They tend to be on the smaller side in terms of the capital they give, because they're kind of, you know, getting up and running too. They're not as established, but they are out there. And, you know, I feel like when you're fundraising, a lot of the times you have to make sure you're going to the right group. So even if you hear cannabis fund, that cannabis fund is not going to fund every single thing in every single vertical. Everybody has their own specific, you know, platforms that they invest in. So for example, you know, if you're raising your seed round, you should go to seek investors who play in that sandbox. You know, make sure you know who you're going to ask from before you ask. And that's a huge part of it too. People aren't asking the right people.
Absolutely. Let's take a step back and look at the huge picture of investment in business in the United States. Okay, there are these funds out there that people put money in, and they're either tied to the cannabis industry or they're not, right? That's where I'm starting to hear they're not filling up as much. Now, Heidi, I'm not going to put you on the spot or anything like that, but I want to know if the male is controlling the dollar moving forward in this industry. What impact will that have on economic empowerment females who are going for licenses and what have you?
Yeah, you know, that's a really interesting point. And I really appreciate the opportunity to emphasize this. You know, women, much to the point we were just discussing a moment ago, we don't often ask for the resources we need when it comes to capital in the first place. If you look at the statistics, I believe it was American Express did a study last year that said that women on average ask for $35,000 or less in business loans on average, which is incredible to me when you look at the dollars that we're actually spending throughout this industry. But, you know, there is no question that private equity and private consumer financing, there's no question that it's male dominated. I was just doing a little research before we jumped on this show, and I believe Harvard Business School said that less than 6% of private equity participants are female. So you're not seeing that collaboration on the capital markets level at all. You're not seeing women empowering women in that space because they're not in that space. So they're not able to elevate each other into that space, which is work that we're actively doing now. So what we need to do as women, and maybe this is my logical lawyer brain, is to show these individuals why they need us, why these industries need us, not only to succeed, but also to develop their own market of consumers that will be able to come back to them and utilize their products. You know, if you look at the health and wellness space, which really to me is what cannabis is, women control 90% of those household decisions about what wellness looks like for your home, for your community. So maybe if we need to, you know, if we can't pound our chest and enjoy, you know, get into the capital market in kind of the traditional old school male way, then we need to win them over with logic and our dollars. And I think we can do that. I think it just starts with a little bit of awareness and intentional spending from the market side.
Sarah, you know, especially now that you're seeing New York come on board, they're really focused on economic empowerment opportunities in that market. You know, when cannabis started to become decriminalized and legalized for adult use in some of these states, you're always getting the little person. I'm not going to, you know, put a name or a gender on that. The little person starting up and thinking, hey, you know what? I'm going to go for a license. I'm going to open up a storefront, and you know, we're going to make $1 million gazillion. Well, it's not that easy, and B, the multi-state operator really is not necessarily dictating what's going on in each state, but they're playing a very important role to kind of get the industry going. And, you know, you heard what was going on in Washington. What's your opinion about the multi-state operators? Because they're probably the ones that absorbed a lot of those women at the C-level positions and didn't rehire them. I'm just going on facts here, not necessarily an opinion. Didn't necessarily hire them back into those positions when they acquired a smaller company. So let's talk about the multi-state operator and their role in this industry.
And I'm going to choose my words very carefully.
I understand
too,
that.
because it is very small.
No
industry.
names, no names.
And I have dear friends who are women who they are few and far between in their C-suites. But it is not a secret that they absolutely need to diversify their C-suites. I mean, across the board, and, you know, have females be in charge of the P&L, like not just having them in, you know, and I'm not dissing these, but like marketing roles and things like that. We actually need them in the CFO spots. We need them in the VP, you know, the CROs, like all of those. We need them to drive the actual bottom line, and we can do it. We're just not being given those opportunities. And I don't have the answer why, because there is so much amazing talent out there that people need to scoop up.
Yeah, let's talk about talent for a second. It's a completely different definition in the business world as opposed to my world, which was always on camera. I just want to make sure we understand it. I was talking to a recruiter of a major recruitment firm. I think I could say Flower Hire. I'm not going to name who it was, but we talked about the challenges if you happen to be an older person and you don't fit into that square peg or round hole that the business plan says you should be fitting into at this level in the multi-state operator level. Heidi, and I think I see an old friend, Jackie, now joining us too. There she is. But I'm going to go to Heidi first, and then Jackie will come back and introduce you. You were late to class, so we're going to make you do a lap, okay? So Heidi, my point is, I don't understand why the cookie cutter mentality exists with a startup industry where you can't, you know, you should have that feeling of a startup, kind of like what we do here, where I wear a gazillion hats. Why wouldn't that happen for hiring practices when some of these MSOs make their acquisitions?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think it feeds into what we were just discussing a moment ago about really recognizing who you are serving in the industry. You know, you might create a product, you might create a brand and find that it appeals to someone that you didn't intend for it to appeal to. Well, that's your customer. Serve them. There's no, you know, pride or ego in this. And I think that's one of the things that we are seeing immensely, especially during the pandemic, is that women are driving sales. And the biggest actual increase in sales was individuals 55 and up. So I think we need to start speaking to those individuals. I think dispensaries and other points of access that offer those individuals will see benefits in that space. And I think we have seen that on the West Coast as well, but it does take intentionality. And again, just winning with logic, winning with business.
Right. And one person who's been tied to that West Coast community for a while now is Jackie Bryant, now the managing editor of San Diego Magazine. I don't think officially I've ever congratulated you, Jackie, on that. So congratulations on that. I was a fan of Jackie's because I read her as a freelance journalist and follow her on her newsletter. Jackie, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm great. Sorry, I'm late. I had some technical difficulties and then of course I had to restart my computer right at the exact moment.
Murphy's Law.
So yeah, I was like, oh, great. This is just a series of total calamities.
Right. And as long as you don't throw it out the window, we all want to do that sometimes, right?
Right. But thank you. And thanks for waiting for me and for hanging
out. No, of course. You're still one of our favorites. You probably have heard some of the conversation we're talking about. In your opinion, and I know you're in California, what is the biggest barrier to entry for economic empowerment applicants that happen to be female?
Ooh, well, I mean, I'm sure this has been said already, but access to capital. The truth is just, and I see it all the time. You know, I report on all aspects of the cannabis industry and at all points in the supply chain and in all different legalities. So I know people who are hardcore trappers up in the hill, and you know, people who are in boardrooms. And the one thing in common in all of those spaces is that it's pretty hard for women to get into them. You kind of have to have a certain personality, or you have to be anointed, or somebody has to want to sleep with you, or they want something for you. I mean, it's really the truth. And so like, to even get in that room and get in that circle and be somewhere where you're in that conversation, it's a puzzle that not everybody can solve, nor should they have to. So I think that that's really the biggest thing is the simple fact that, you know, it's like in finance, right? Where, you know, people go golfing and that's how you make deals. There's different ways of socializing in the cannabis industry, and women just don't always make it into those circles. So I think that's honestly probably one of the biggest barriers.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. There are gender specific characteristics in business because of that corporate structure. Okay. And I happen to know a very, very, very successful former corporate person, and also a current corporate person that is CEO of a major advertising company. And, you know, there are certain characteristics of the CEO, person who's calling the shots. I heard the word ego in there. Women have their egos in control. At least, again, this is my opinion. I think men are driven by ego, and they make.
I mean, of course, I'll agree with that.
Yes, that's a fact.
Obvious. I was like screaming at my therapist this week, men and their ego. So yeah, like that's not even a joke. I'm like actually dead serious about that.
So it's a fact, Jimmy. It's not an opinion anymore.
I get it. Again, I'm just trying to be balanced, Jackie, in the talk show. Okay? And by the way, I do have friends that are guys that hate and call me names because they think I have female genitalia parts without using the word. Okay. And
you would only be so lucky.
That's exactly what I said, you know. Although I will say, just from a perspective of a heterosexual male, I have the utmost respect for females. I really do, because you guys could do something that we'll never do. Okay. And then you are cursed every month, if you catch my drift, until that goes away, and that ability to reproduce goes away. And then you have to deal with menopause. And I'm sorry, that is just unfair. You know, I mean,
you have to deal with men every day on top of it. It's crazy.
Yeah, and only get paid 81 cents to $1. I mean,
right.
We can just keep going.
Yeah, we're getting the short end of the stick in like a lot of ways here.
Is the boardroom changing in the cannabis space because of where we're at? You know, we know the facts and figures. Sarah, I'm going to ask you that question right off, because I'm going to guess that you have perhaps a little bit more experience dealing with the MSOs and the biggies in the industry. And maybe I'm profiling here about Arcview, but you know, that's your reputation. So,
yes.
Are we seeing any move? You know, the Me Too movement came along. Is it impacting the cannabis space, I guess? And I'll get something from everybody on that. Sarah, go ahead.
I think slowly but surely, but I think part of the reason is that women are pursuing those opportunities more. They're not just waiting for them to come to them. They are actively seeking and actively pursuing and going for them, because they now feel worthy enough, even though we have been, but it's, you know, that whole imposter thing and confidence and everything. They may have not felt worthy, but like for me, part of what I do is try to empower women in the space as much as I can and say, yes, you deserve to be in that boardroom. Yes, you deserve to be on that VP seat. Yes, you deserve to ask for what you want. And that's just really quickly. So Heidi, you mentioned before, you know, on average, women were asking for $35,000 less on their business loans. We see over and over and over women not asking for enough capital when they're raising. And there was this like comment going around, like, may you have the confidence of a tech bro raising money, you know, like basically, because they have no problem going out and asking for $20 million for an idea on a napkin. Whereas women are like, I think I need 75,000. And you're like, no, you need $1 million because you don't want to keep doing this and you deserve it. You know, so it's like this weird thing happening. So I'm here to say, ask for more money, ask for more money.
Always, every time, even if you know there's not more, because even if you just ask and you set that precedent, trust me, they will They will screw with you less.
That's right. That's good. That's good. Go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah, I totally agree. 100. I'm so enthusiastic about this. I totally agree. And you know, if you're not one of those bulldogs, if you're not somebody who can speak up in a meeting, that's okay. Partner with somebody who is.
Yes.
You know, I will often go in, I'll have somebody say, can you do a quick contract review for me? And I'll say, hold on a second. We need to have a conversation about what you are giving up with this agreement. And that's a really unique space. If I got to say one thing on this talk, what I would want to say is, if women are claiming their place in this industry by submitting applications and starting a business from scratch, the most important thing is to be that bulldog. Don't give away your equity. Don't give away the right to add other investors. Don't give away board seats on your board of directors. Don't give it away. And if you can't say that, I'm more than happy to go into a conversation and tell somebody that $100,000 is chump change while they're trying to say the opposite to my client and have them give up a substantial amount of equity. You just need to partner with women like are on this group, and we will have that voice for you until you're able to do it for yourself. But if you don't start off with that voice, you're going to give up something that's going to make it so that, like I said in the beginning, your hands are tied behind your back when it comes to decision time. So I would say embrace that personality. If it's an act you have to put on, if you have to put on a different outfit, do it. But you need to start there. And again, if you can't do it for yourself, there's women here who will do it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Jackie, I know you have something to say on this subject. Go ahead.
Why is this something to say? I mean, it's interesting. And it's not really related to, but just, I guess the role of women and how they're perceived in this industry. Yeah. Like this is a belabored point, but it is an uphill battle. And it's something that I think is more relevant than ever. It's always relevant, of course, but you know, there are statistics, and unfortunately I don't have them off the top of my head, but that do show that, you know, women's the percentage of women in boardrooms in cannabis has declined over the last couple of years. And also at the same time, I think in periods of difficulty, economic strife in general, we see this in society, you know, during periods of recession, domestic violence rates go up. You can kind of feel the same vibe in the industry, honestly. Like now that things are fraught in California, especially, and in many other states, people are getting freaked out. They're about to lose their businesses. Times are tough, tensions are high, and you can feel it. I've seen it in conversations. I've seen it in email trails that people have, you know, passed to me. I've seen it in the way that men have treated me in the industry versus, you know, even a year ago. And so I feel like when people get stressed, their worst tendencies to come out. And for some, it's misogyny. And I feel like that's really, it's something happening in the industry like right now. Like it's coming up in a big way, and it's coming out with all the tensions because, you know, when you're pissed and you're nervous, the worst things come out. So I don't know. I feel this very like acutely at this moment in time because of, I think, all of the tough spot the industry is in many respects.
All right. So I'm gonna throw in a tip from my female partner. Respond, don't react.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's for
I learned
anybody.
that the hard way, but I
Same, Jimmy, trust me, you know.
I get it.
I'm afraid of responding. No, and it's never good because then they have control over you, right?
Right. Well, you know what? It's collaboration. This is really where this is the key to a relationship. This is the key to success in business. You know, don't have to be the first to market, the first to have an exclusive interview. You know, it's okay. Everybody gets to watch and decide what they want when they want it now. The consumer is in charge of absorbing media content. So, you know, it's not necessary really to be first anymore. It used to be when there was 3 networks and everybody had to, you know, have dinner at home and watch the news. That was, you know, ancient. You read about it in your history books. Hey, Sarah, I want you to have an opportunity to talk about the women's inclusive event in Los Angeles that Arcview is involved with. Go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. And this is kind of born out of what Jackie just said. You know, we're not necessarily like welcome or invited into certain spaces in this industry. And I myself at events find myself surrounded by amazing women. And I think we just tend to be drawn to each other and, you know, consuming and just hanging and all of that. So This event is next Thursday. It's for our Women's Inclusion Network, but it's for anyone in the industry at all. So it's being held at Green Street, and it's a day-long event, and there will be an operator panel, and we have Wanda James and Whitney Conroy from Curaleaf, and we have Allison Krongard from Her Highness, and then we also have an investor panel as well. So really talking about creative ways to get capital. And then we have 2 pitch events. So we have 12 female-founded companies who are seeking seed funding, who are pitching. And then we also have 5 Series A female-founded companies who are seeking funding, who will be pitching as well. So it's going to be a day-long, event full of education and connections and lots of weed.
That is awesome. That's really awesome.
Thank you. And it's 110 women.
Because that's how it happens. You see how deals get done, both of you, every day, right? Like sometimes that is how it happened. You're like not even an event, like you're at dinner, you're at drinks, and someone goes, okay, we want to do this. Let's do this. Okay, we'll talk on Monday. Like it really is as simple as just being there and being there.
Yeah. And we have a lot of investors coming as well. So Merida is one of the sponsors. They'll have a lot of women there as well. So a lot of female investors. So it's just a whole day of great vibes. And I know that word is overused in this industry in general, but really like support and connections and all of that. And we just, wanted a platform and a space to do this for the women in the industry.
Well, I'll tell you, Heidi, Sarah, and Jackie, you've set the bar very high now for the next 2 panels that we're going to bring in here. And again, there was no pun intended there. Okay. The point is, you guys were terrific. You guys were terrific. Thank you so much. I love connecting both coasts because there's a lot of excitement here on the East Coast. There's a lot of attention being looked at the New York State experience, which we all know is predicted to be equal to California in 5 to 10 years. I mean, but that's still pretty amazing to say coming out of the gate. And, this is what we do. This is what I like to do, is to create an opportunity to learn from the mature markets in the West now that they're opening in the East. So Heidi, Sarah, and Jackie, again, thank you so much for joining us here on a Friday afternoon. We're going to take a break. Green Rush Live will continue after this with a whole new group of smart, beautiful women.
Thanks.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it can make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
Difference is building a solution for that individual, not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the costs low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
All right, we are back for another half-hour discussion with women in cannabis. This is always one of my favorite types of shows that we do, because I really think it's important to recognize the women that are involved with cannabis and are waving this flag, and they deserve to be heard. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and sometimes host of Green Rush Live. We are here every Friday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern till 6 o'clock. And we always have great guests on this show. For some reason, people want to come on the show live and talk about this because, again, I'm trying to give an opportunity for the industry to have a pro cannabis media voice. And I think all my friends know this about me. I've always been a pro cannabis media voice. Anyway, let's bring in our panel. We have two Brooks and a Debbie and a Jillian. And Jillian, is it Jillian Xavier?
Yes, it's Jillian.
Jillian. Okay, so I'm already hearing audio Wi-Fi issues, and I just want to make you aware of that as we move along here, because I want to introduce everybody else to the program too and get them to talk. We've got the VP of Partnerships, Brooke Butler at Simplifya is with us. Brooke, there's Brooke B, and we have Brooke W as well. That's Brooke Westlake, and she is the founder and owner of the Women in Cannabis Expo. Hello, Brooke.
Hi.
Hey, Brooke, you could probably turn. Are you on a phone by any chance?
I'm on my cell phone.
You
with
can
my
turn it
audio.
horizontally, and you can fill up the screen if you do that. You know that.
Okay.
You know, and my Dan video director will help you with that too if you need it. And Debbie is with us. Debbie Churgai is the executive director of Americans for Safe Access. And I saw her quoted in an article this week, and I immediately reached out to her because I said, we're doing a Women in Cannabis show. You should be on it. Debbie, first of all, tell us what is Americans for Safe Access. Go ahead.
So Americans for Safe Access, we've been around since 2002. We're a national nonprofit patient advocacy organization. Our mission is to help ensure safe and legal access to medical cannabis for therapeutic use and research. And so we work to educate politicians, educate the public on the aspects of medical cannabis.
That's terrific. And you did a very good elevator pitch. Brooke B.
Yeah.
Brooke B, who's the vice president of partnerships for Simplifya. What is I know what it is, but tell our audience, what is Simplifya?
Yeah, so Simplifya is the compliance software that deals with all of the really nasty parts of running a cannabis business. And so we try to take all of their state and their city and county regulations and put them into a 12th grade reading level, kind of yes or no question checklist to make sure that everybody can understand what they can and can't do. And if they go through all the blood, sweat, and tears of actually getting a license, they don't lose it over something silly like a camera being pointed the wrong way or an employee having their badge, on the wrong part of their hip, God forbid.
Right. And Brooke Westlake, you have a very powerful story, I just want to say, because I did my due diligence. You really do. Tell us about the Women in Cannabis Expo first, so you get a good plug in. And then we're going to go back to Jillian to see if she's been able to find a good spot in the house, because we all know Wi-Fi can be a challenge. Go ahead, Brooke W.
Thank you for having me. My name is Brooke Westlake. I'm the founder and owner of the Women in Cannabis Expo. We're hosting 4 of them this year. And our next one is in 3 weeks in Denver, Colorado at the Curtis Hotel. We had our first one last month in Atlantic City, New Jersey. We gave out awards, scholarships. We had speakers and vendors. And we will have 20 speakers and 50 vendors in Denver, and then give out more awards and scholarships.
That's terrific. And I know at one point we were the sponsors of a Women in Cannabis event in 2019 in Las Vegas. But
that's not us. Yeah.
I know that's not you. I know.
Oh, okay.
I'm just telling you that we've supported the movement before. Okay. I'm just telling you. All right. All right.
Love it. Thank you.
Jillian, this is it. This is your big 15 seconds of fame. We're going to come back to you. Unmute yourself and let's just see if we can hear you. Okay, clean. Can you unmute yourself, Jillian? There you go.
Okay, how do I sound now, guys?
Much better. Much better. Don't move and hold your breath and put your arm up like this. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Jillian, Xavier, tell us about DREGLO edibles. Go ahead.
So DREGLO Edibles is founded out of California. I am the owner of DREGLO Edibles, but now I've moved into cannabis testing. So I have DREGLO Cannabis Testing because I could not find real estate to support manufacturing. So I had to pivot. So I now have my local authorization, my license with the city of Long Beach. I'm working with the state. I'm now in the state application process. I have my location and I want to make a difference as far as integrity of the plant and what's being disseminated to, to consumers on the street. It could be my grandmother, and we have to make sure that what's out there, it is what it is. So integrity is everything to me. So I'm pivoting, but for the good.
What's interesting is you said integrity, and I think I wrote something down earlier. Yeah. Oh God, it was Leah Daniels who was joining us at 4:00. It was a great quote about integrity versus profitability. And she was far more concerned with integrity than profitability, which I find interesting. Yeah, and
integrity is a thing you do.
Right. Well, exactly.
Integrity is a thing you do when nobody's looking. Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
No. It's jump right in. This is a wide open talk show. I love that. Debbie, how challenging is it for people? Now you're on the nonprofit side, so you're constantly fundraising because you need to maintain the depth of your work, correct?
Yes, and it's the hardest part of my job and about 90% of my job because I am constantly fundraising because this is a surprise to most people, but the industry does not support advocacy. I find that quote, integrity over profit. I would love to know who said that because that is so rare to find. In fact, most people, when I do ask them, if they want to donate to ASA, sponsor ASA, the first thing they say is, what is the ROI? What is the return of investment for them? What did they get out of it? And I'm like, we're sitting here educating the public. We're getting policy change. We've changed all the laws. We've helped change all the laws in the states we're trying to work on federal legalization. If that's not ROI, then I don't know what is.
Right.
But it's a constant challenge. And especially as a female, I have to say, it does feel like it's a little bit harder. A a lot of men, you know, don't want to talk to me. So it is very challenging.
You know, and finding good guys is getting tougher and tougher. I know that for a fact, for sure. I do want to go back to the Brooks. What Brooke B, okay, what is Simplifya doing to be all inclusive in the cannabis space?
Yeah, so, you know, I think internally as a company, we actually have quite a lot of women that work at Simplifya, which has been really good. And I don't want to say that I've had a huge influence on that, but, you know, women do some jobs better than others. And so I kind of, you know, insist when those things are going on. But, you know, externally as a company, we really have been focused on ways that we can actually do more to support you know, equity-owned businesses and, you know, minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses, because much to Debbie's point, it's a lot of times a more challenging road to walk down. And so, you know, we do everything from extending discounts to holding webinars, just giving tips, you know, try to connect them into people that we know are part of an ecosystem that are going to treat them well and not take advantage of them, because they're, you know, a minority owned or women owned business. And so, you know, it's a lot of things. I think it's a combo of doing things internally, making sure that you're offering employment opportunities to a wide range of humans, but also making sure that translates into what you're passing on product wise to clients and consumers.
Brooke W, I'm coming to you next, and I'm gonna throw you a little bit of a curve. You're the founder and the owner of the Women in Cannabis Expo, which to me means you're the boss.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
but,
sir.
All right, but hang on a second, because I don't like that word. Okay, believe me, when my employees, okay, boss, I'm like, no, we are teammates, we are partners, we are working together on this cause. How do you, as a leader of your organization, make sure that people aren't intimidated by your title, if you will?
Well, I feel like I'm a very easy, down-to-earth person to talk to. And you will see that if I include everybody in an email, I will say, hello, team. So I don't just address one person, I call everybody a team, because at the end of the day, we're all working for a greater goal for our businesses and collaboratively together. And so I like to refer to everybody as team. That is a favorite word of mine.
Well, you know what, with me being a former sportscaster, everything comes back to sports anyway. So I can totally get it, because as a coach, I wanted to put my players in positions on the field where they can accentuate their strengths and hide their weaknesses. And the same analogy, I believe, goes towards business too. Jillian, what's been your experience as far as making sure that you've got a collaborative team under you? Go ahead.
You know, I've teamed up with Miss Brooke Westlake. I'm actually a legacy sponsor with her this year. We did Atlantic City. We're doing Denver at the end of the month. We're in San Francisco. We're in, you know, Vegas. You know, what we have to do is we have to collaborate as a team to get the message out there of our businesses, you know, and what we do. Nobody knows that I'm opening a cannabis testing lab until I get out there and collaborate with us. You know, as women in cannabis, we need each other, you know, to grow, because this is a male dominated, you know, business, and we coming to eat y'all lunch. So we got to do it as a team.
So I apologize for my gender and my race a lot on this show, okay? Because I really do think that the old white guy has screwed up this country for 100 years, okay? At least, okay? And I really see the leadership qualities in females now. I really do. I think there's such an opportunity here to take not control of this industry, but to carve out a good, solid niche for women who understand business, right?
Yes.
I mean, and Debbie, I'll come back to you again, because on the nonprofit side, you do tend to see more females than males. Is that a profile or a stereotype?
That's true, except for in the cannabis space. In fact, we are the only continually women-led national cannabis nonprofit. If you look at all the other big nonprofits in cannabis, they're all men. There are some that had a few women at time, and I think the minority business medical marijuana association also is woman-led, but Our president and founder of ASA is female, and we've always been women-led. So in cannabis, it's really hard. We've always been room with men. Every time we do something with a bunch of nonprofits, it's always male-driven, at least in the cannabis space. But I think you're probably right when it comes to just in general nonprofits.
Right. That's cool. I want to go around the panel here and allow you all to tell your own cannabis story. And obviously, Brooke, I'm setting you up because you do have a very powerful story. But I'm going to start with Brooke B. And, you know, totally up to you if you want to share your personal journey with cannabis or just why you're so passionate about doing what you're doing in the space that you're in now.
So cannabis actually came into my life in 2019. A mentor of mine suggested I open a cannabis testing lab, which I still don't have yet because the testing requirements in the state of Nevada has been shut down. But in 2020, when I launched the Women in Cannabis Expo in the lab, that same year I came within 3 hours of almost dying, losing my life. I was in the hospital for a week fighting for my life. I lost an entire section of my colon. That end of year, I lost so much weight, significant amount of weight, and was very sick, throwing up, couldn't keep things down. Our event was postponed to 2021 due to COVID. And I went into a dispensary and I did not tell them that I worked in the cannabis industry. And so I went in and I talked to a bud tender. I should be educated from a medical perspective, from a doctor or nurse, but it was really a bud tender. And I said to them, I'm really struggling with my weight and with appetite and all of these things. And they were the ones who taught me about microdosing and how to try different sativas that would be effective for me, because I had tried it 20 years ago and had a massive panic attack. And so from there, I started microdosing. And it's literally at this point, cannabis is actually pretty much saving my life, because every day I don't want to eat. I'm still having significant struggles. I have to make it through a 4-year mark on this whole section. It could collapse and have a redo surgery. So it's very, very scary because I came so close to dying, and I know that that can happen again. And I'm very thankful for the plant in the aspect of it's literally keeping me nourished and eating daily. And so I feel like I'm so blessed because it's really come full circle with on a business perspective, but on a personal level for me.
I told you it was a powerful story. Great.
Thank you for letting me share that.
Absolutely. Jillian, you can tell us your little cannabis journey and why it's so important to you if you'd like.
You know, in 2016, my 18-year-old became an angel. He passed away, and the psychiatrist was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna give you cells, but Jillian, you can't. You know, we have to wean you off as addictive." I chose plant, and the plant has helped me to rest. The plant has helped me to stay sane. I don't want to go into la la land and not remember my child, you know. So I choose this path, but it's been hard for women to get into the cannabis space. Like I said, real estate was hard to get, you know, so I choose testing, and that's where I want to be, like I said, because of the integrity of it. And it keeps me learning. I'm jumping into something new. You know, I heard Sidney Poitier say, if your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough. So this scares me, but I'm excited and I want to learn and I want to make a difference. You know, the money will come, but what's the money? I'd rather have my son, you know, but if I can pull these kids off the streets and say, let me show you how to be a lab technician, or let me pull you underneath my arms and show you how to build your own dreams, then I'm making a difference. So that's why it's so important to me.
We are still having a little Wi-Fi issues with your signal here, but we did get the gist of that story. And I got to tell you, as a parent, that's the ultimate price. And I'm sorry, but I'm thrilled that you are in this business and you continue to wave the flag, because mental health in this country right now is a huge problem. I don't think we need to go much further than the news on a regular basis to talk about how mad people are and how they're expressing their anger, mostly guys, I might add. But that being said, it really bothers me, and I really do support everybody who has gone through this in their lives, and you know, lots of respect for you as well. So Debbie, you want to tell us your little cannabis journey, if you don't mind? It's totally up to you.
No, sure. Well, I don't have a personal story. And at first that was, difficult because as the head of a national patient advocacy group, I was like, how can I not be a patient and be a part of this? But what I tell people is you don't have to be a patient to know that cannabis is medicine. You don't have to be a patient to advocate for it, to want to help other people. The stories that Brooke and Jillian shared, I hear those from patients all over the country constantly. I hear those stories. That's what my job is. We listen to people. And unfortunately, a lot of the stories aren't, happy stories. They're stories of lack of access, where there's so many parts in the state, they can't afford the medicine. It's life-saving, it's helping their children, but they don't allow it in schools. I hear stories from patients every week, and that's what keeps me going, doing what I'm doing, because advocacy is really hard. It is very hard. We don't make a lot of money, but what we do is we make a difference, and we're trying to get more access to people all over the country, not those that just can afford it or are lucky enough to live in states where it's legal. But that's what I'm here for, is fighting for access for everyone in this country.
And I'm going on a limb thinking that how many times have you heard cannabis has saved my life, cannabis has changed my life, like on a daily basis?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I wish I could just share all the stories that I've heard to all of the people, all the members of Congress and all the legislators, and say, like, how can you not, allow this? It's a miracle medicine.
Yeah, we only need 10 in the Senate. I'm just saying. Okay? You don't have to be everybody. It's just 10 in those. It drives me nuts how our political system is just stuck in the mud, and everybody's pointing fingers. And I thought we were all Americans. I really did. I thought the whole idea was to embrace our differences and learn how to get along with people that aren't like us or me or you or whomever it is. That's the only way we're actually going to survive, I believe, as a people. As I get on my preacher hat here. Brooke, what's Simplifya doing to open up doors for those that are economically challenged, if you will, the empowerment group that's out there?
Yeah. So, one of the things that we're trying to do is, in all of these states that are having new programs come online or starting to accept applications, they're always required to submit some type of standard operating procedures. It varies state to state on which ones are there, but that's a requirement with their application. A lot of times standard operating procedures can cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're getting a lawyer or consultant to help you with them. And that's not something that everybody has in the bank, especially after they've paid all the other fees to do all the other 9 million things that they've been asked to do as part of the application. And so we actually create really, really affordable templates that takes all that regulatory burden, that kind of nitty gritty piece of it out. And it's kind of ready to go for them to add their proprietary details in there. So it's kind of like plug and play, standard operating procedures and things like that. But so we do things like that to assist people to get licensed. And then again, once they're licensed, we try to walk them through as much as we can and have our software kind of hold their hand through for inspections with both their city and state level, just all of the headaches that they have to go through, which can be really stressful. We're trying to make that part of it as least amount of a burden as possible.
You go, girl. Keep going. All right. Now's the time we get to go around the room again. Personal plugs here. This is where you get to promote your event, Brooke. Where people can donate to you, Debbie. So Brooke W., go ahead. Plug away, as they say.
Well, we'd love all of these ladies, and Jimmy, you especially, if you'd want to come join us in Denver and Vegas or San Francisco, we'd love to have you with us at any of our expos. Like I said, we have our second one of the year in Denver in 3 weeks. You can look us up at womanandcannabisexpo.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube as well. And then we've launched a secondary brand called Legally Blonde and Blunt. So it's all the great accessories that women like myself want, the pink and the girly. And I've got sweatshirts and apparel, and I'll have my own booth space at my own booth. But of course, we always need the support of others, and community is very important. As Jillian mentioned, a legacy sponsor showed with us this year at all of our expos that we have remaining for 2022.
All right. Good job. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Jillian, How can people find your product? I know you're in California, and we have listeners and viewers out there, so go ahead, plug away.
Okay, so look, I'm on Amazon. I have hemp seed shampoo, conditioner, hair oil, all organic. I have sugar scrubs. I'm opening up soon my cannabis testing lab. It's a process with the city, but for now, I'm still hustling. So check me out on Amazon and Etsy, and I have my own website. And then check us out in Denver at the end of the month, June 30th. We're over here with Women in Cannabis with Brooke, doing great things and making great connections. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, terrific stuff. And Debbie, I want you to definitely go out on a limb here, give us your website. And I'm going out thinking that there's actually a place to go donate. Am I right? On your website?
Yes, our website is safeaccessnow.org. We have a ton of free educational information, all free to download, read, utilize. It's safeaccessnow.org/donate to donate. But also we're a membership organization. It's only $35 a year to be a member. And we have a lot of special membership deals like with AAA and things like that, if you're a member. There's some business membership levels too, which I think are like $500. But please, join us, donate. We really could use the support right now, and utilize our website. We got a lot of free stuff on there.
There you go. That's terrific. Thank you so much for joining us on a short turnaround too. Brooke B, I don't want to forget you. Tell us how we find Simplifya.
Yeah, well, just you spell the word simplify and then throw an A on the end of it. I know it's weird. So simplify and then add an A. .com is our website. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. But for anybody out there that's thinking about getting licensed or has a license, we give free trials, free looks at the system. We'd love to help anybody out there that's struggling.
That's great. And it's not weird. It's a brand. Okay. It makes sense if you think about it.
My CEO told me that the way you're supposed to name tech companies is find a regular word and then make it sound weird. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and those tech guys really know marketing, don't they? All right, I'm going to leave it at that.
Exactly.
Brooke and Debbie and Jillian, thank you so much for joining us here on our special Women in Cannabis live show on Green Rush this afternoon. We've got a big finish coming up, and all I can tell you is this is what we call a tease in the business. One of the women that's coming into our panel in the next half hour has a very specific demographic consumer target. I'll never forget when I asked her, so who's your target demo? She goes, anybody who likes sex. Just say it. Don't go away.
I'll be sure to listen.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Don't go away. We'll get to meet Tanya Griffin and oOYes after this.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it can make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information. All right, welcome back to Green Rush Live, the final half hour on a Friday afternoon here at Pro Cannabis Media. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media. And as we say all the time, please like, share, and subscribe, not just to this show. And I do see a very active chat room going on, which is great, but also to the other programs that we have here on Pro Cannabis Media. At the top of the hour, we release our news show at 6 o'clock. We Talk News, anchored by Elena Pinto, who I happen to think is a network talent, okay? And it's also state-by-state reports, including our Pennsylvania correspondent, Claudia Post, who joins us now on our final half hour with three other people with us. Tanya Griffin, the founder and CEO of oOYes Incorporated, and a few other groups like Water and Trees, and Marisa, is it Prana?
Marisa Prana.
Marisa Prana, beautiful name and a beautiful person. Tell us about ButterflyPrana. And wait, before we also have Brianna Bose. Am I right?
Oh yeah, the only person to ever say it right.
Well, there you go. I had a 50-50 shot. Okay. All right, Marisa, we're going to start with you. Please tell us about ButterflyPrana.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. It's an honor. So thank you. So ButterflyPrana, I am a spiritual life and success coach. I do all different types of spiritual healing, which leads into plant medicine. So what I do with my clients, I work with women, I empower them to come over hardships with a spiritual and plant medicine based way. I love what I do. I've been doing it for 2 years, and now I'm breaking into the speaking world and doing motivational speaking to empower more women through spirituality. And yeah, that's what I'm here for.
That's fantastic.
Thanks.
Sounds like God's work in many ways. Brianna, ready to tell us a little about the Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, because I'm intrigued.
Oh, sure. So not only is it the coolest group ever, but we're an extensive network of women, pretty much assuring that we could network and continue to grow an equitable future for the industry. We have chapters throughout the US, and our intention is to take it globally. My position is in charge of establishing these chapters and ensuring that we have networking events, conferences, and other types of things on a quarterly basis.
Gotcha. And Claudia, I'm going to go to you next because I want Tanya to be the last one in. She understands why. Claudia, tell us about tell us about your Scarlet Express company too. Go ahead.
Right. I'll tell you about a little bit about everything. My name is obviously Claudia Post, and I want to thank you, Jimmy and Dan and Isabel, for getting me in. Hallelujah. So I've been in the cannabis industry for 12 years, going on 13. I opened a marketing communications agency called Smokin' Hot Solutions. And my tagline was, we create the buzz And then we, realizing the industry is getting a little tiny bit more sophisticated, I brought in a young man who was my intern eventually, and his last name is Monk and my last name is Post, and we're together, we're the most. And that's what I came up with. I'm like a brainstorming crazy person.
That's
so marketing, communications, anything, blogging, whatever you need, we do it. Like I say, 12 years. And then my background is 20 years. Of course, I look like I'm 16, 20 years in transportation, supply chain, logistics. I most recently created Scarlet Express, which is a delivery service, cannabis delivery service on 2 tracks, could be from the dispensary to the patient and could be from the rec store to the consumer, a discreet, compliant delivery. And because I have those 2 crazy talents, I put them together, and that's what I did.
And with transparency here, Most CG is our agency of record too. I just want to throw that in there. And last but not least is a new good friend, Tanya Griffin, who I met at MJ Unpacked a few weeks ago. When I sat down to interview her for the first time, I had absolutely no idea about her background. And literally over the last few weeks, we've been talking almost every day because she's not only the founder of oOYes.love, but she's also a tremendous business person and human being, because she's guided me through a lot of things that have been challenging us as a business. So Tanya, it's great to see you. And as you now know, I'm on record. So there's no turning back.
Right. That's awesome. So thank you, Jimmy, Isabella, Dan, everyone. Like Claudia, I am an OG here. I've been in the business since the cannabis industry since 2012. I built the first vertically integrated national cannabis franchise in the country and exited to an MSO a couple of years ago, some of my Illinois dispensaries. Which has allowed me to kind of lean into what I love, which is sex, drugs, and rock and roll, of course. So I built my latest CPG company is oOYes. Jimmy, those O's are for orgasms.
I know what the O stands for. Okay. I knew it was an octopus. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a big O, isn't it, Tanya? It's a
well,
big
one of
O,
them. You should have multiple, in my opinion, but certainly one big O goes a long way. Absolutely. So, oOYes is my ecstatic sex lifestyle brand. We sell in sex shops and in dispensaries. We sell direct to consumer. We have a sex quiz, which allows you to get your kink score, share what you're willing to do with each other, with your partner. And that's oOYes.
That's it. And we'll say, and if we kept track of blushes per minute, okay,
it's all Jimmy.
I was going to say, in a 30-minute interview, it had to be at least 10 times.
It's all Jim. Yeah.
And it was really unexpected, but it was a lot of fun. And now I found a new friend, which is something I really cherish. Claudia, you know that too, don't you?
I do.
Okay, so let's talk about the challenges that women face in the cannabis business and in business in general. And
about that,
Claudia, I know you're ready to rock, girl. So
yeah.
Do you have any examples of when you know that it's because I'm a woman, right? That kind of a thing happened, right? Go ahead.
Yes, and I can't curse here, but I would say F yes. So my first career was in transportation. It's inhabited by big male egos. There were very few women when I started. I was always the #1 salesperson in any of my sales teams. And I became a senior executive for an international company called TNT Skypack. I went to a huge meeting and we all sat in the tables and it was dinner and a bunch of bullshit. And the vice president got up and said, now, ladies, if this is too tough for you, you can go back to selling lingerie. Now, I was at a table with 12 people. They had to literally hold me back.
I don't blame you, by the way.
In transportation, it's just a lot of, yes, I know. In this industry, I mean, I own my own shop. It's You know, like I always say, if you're a secure man like you, Jimmy, or like Dan, you love me because I'm there, I'm real, I'm not bullshitting. But if you're insecure, you sure as don't know what to do with me. There you go. That's my story.
Marisa, how challenging has it been for you to be a businesswoman in the cannabis space when you're faced with a male dominant world?
That's a great question. So how I've been challenged with that as a woman, I would say, especially with my spiritual practice and how I am combining it together. A lot of, I feel the males that I come against question me, and it's more of like the power struggle of how do you know that because you're just a woman, right? And how I overcome that is you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. It's through your energy, right? So the more that you're passionate about what you're doing, you know, what you're talking about, what you're putting out there, I felt personally, it naturally eliminates I call it bad vibes, right? So anything that's trying to test you and come against you and tell you that you can't do it, just keep doing it. That's how I have overcame it in the past with men specifically, and women too, but men.
Right. We get it. I get it. If you haven't been watching or listening, I apologize for my race and my gender at least every half hour. Brianna, tell us a little bit about the challenges you found as a female in business.
Oh, well, unfortunately, in our industry, women aren't reserved to problems only here. So, I mean, there's a ton, but a couple that I tend to focus on are our lack of access to capital, as well as ourselves being sometimes the greatest obstacle. So with raising capital, not only do you not have assurance, anybody in this industry, that your bank account's even going to be there tomorrow. You don't have the ability to have a personal loan taken out, a small business loan taken out. But specifically with women, we are not necessarily at a lot of these tables where we're able to choose where the money's really going to. And we have a high percentage of consumers that actually would prefer to spend their money in minority or women-owned businesses, but yet we're not providing those. And also beyond that, when I say ourselves being sometimes the largest obstacle, you know, with all of my talks with women in this industry and beyond, I see a huge sign of imposter syndrome all the way around. And it's so unfortunate. We hold ourselves sometimes to such a high degree of perfection, a high degree of just needing to be there and show up, where sometimes it's unhealthy and unnecessary because we define success so different than what it truly should be to us.
Yeah, that's a great comment about success. Now, Tanya, I know you have had experiences with this, especially with your exit to an MSO. Can you give us an anecdotal story about something that you saw or you were part of, and you just were like, men stink?
I don't know that men entirely stink, and I
not
think
all of us.
I
There's
agree.
some good ones. Okay,
I agree. I tend to lean toward Brianna's side, that we in times can be our own worst enemy. I have found the boobs to be to my advantage a lot of the time, to be quite honest with you. I mean, like our multiple orgasms, when we walk into a room, and if you command the room, when you first show up to the table, they size you up as a woman, quote unquote. But if you can take that home and sit in the room, I've closed deals. I've stole many deals from men. I some of these I gotta think which of the particulars I can get into, because they try to NDA you, and there's things that you cannot say. But I'm pretty happy to be a woman in this industry. We're a minority. I think Brianna's point, the other point that she made that I totally agree with is, and what needs to change in this and the transportation and every other industry is our access to capital. And I think that's a matter of how we present ourselves, why we are not trusted to come through. But the reality is, if you just look at the statistics, whether it's Spanx or any of these other companies, if you do give women the reins, we fucking kill it. Can I say fucking? Is this like, sorry,
Didn't
but
say it there, girl, because I didn't say fucking.
Whoa. Okay,
does anybody know who Christina Di Giovanni is from the Emerald Media Group?
Yes.
Okay.
I love Christina.
The cover
Yeah.
issue last month was the fuck issue.
Yeah, that's issue. But it was, yeah, I love Christina. But I want,
We all
to
love
your point, let me just
Go
say
ahead.
something. The idea of women in this industry is ubiquitous, as you brought up, in any industry. And for many years, I sat on the board of an organization called Forum of Executive Women. You could not get in unless you were a woman who controlled X amount of millions, or you were the senior person or whatever. It was all women, powerful women. And we had to have a committee, a group to talk about women on boards, which still exists because women do not get a seat at the table at any industry, anywhere. Friends that are lawyers, it's a shit show. So, for you young, beautiful women, it is not only here, it's everywhere. And they're threatened, as I said. Strong men are not, weak men are. That's my armchair assessment.
Yeah. Ooh, I saw Marisa giving you the the snap. By the way, hang on a second. I got an email from a PR person who ended her email with snaps to you. Can you explain what that meant? Because I really don't know.
Well, Marissa's going to know.
Marisa, go ahead.
All right. I mean, honestly, when I'm snapping here, I'm like, yes, I agree with you. So maybe like it's like hats off to you, clap,
Right.
for you.
It's the same
Cool.
thing.
Cool. I'm going to this is a confession, okay, to all four of you, and of course I'm going on record live on the internet. When I read this book by Jackson Katz, it completely changed my thinking as a human male. And Jackson Katz is one of the premier lecturers in our country again of men's violence against women. And he tours the country. I'm pretty sure he's at Cal Berkeley in San Francisco. He grew up in Massachusetts. I interviewed him in the 90s when he had his first book out called Real Men. And I happened to be talking to him after one of the athletes in Boston had been arrested for domestic violence. So we go to, Jackson and we met, but this is a book that I totally recommend for every man and woman to read. And I'm not getting anything out of Jackson. I haven't talked to him in probably 25 years, but it really impacted my thinking. And I had no idea about a lot of things, but one of the first things he talks about is when he's in an auditorium of boys and girls, let's make them between 18 and 22. And he asks the men, what do you do when you go out to make sure that you don't get attacked? Okay. And, a couple of guys go, oh, I take this, I do that. 2 or 3 hands go up. And then he asks the women in the room, what do they do? And every hand in the auditorium goes up because that is what is faced your gender. When you go out, you need to protect yourself. And as a male, I think that's horrible, to be honest with you, but it's also reality. Brianna, I'm going to come to you first, just because I'm looking at you on the Zoom call and you're right below me. Have you, when you go out, when you're with a group of people, is there anything you do to make sure that you're aware of your surroundings and where you are and what you're about?
I mean, I'm sure everybody on this Zoom call could agree with me that there's not just a single thing. I wish I could just say I put a gun in my purse, but it's, the way that I lock my door. It's the way that I rush to get into my car and lock the door. It's the way that I put brass knuckles in my purse. It's the way that I make sure someone's always on the phone with me when I'm walking. It's the way that I hold my drink. There's so many things that go into it, and the constant anxiety, and there's not even enough cannabis in the world to solve all of that.
Right. And that was a great soundbite, by the way. Fantastic. Tanya, I'm going to come to you now and ask you a similar question. And I know you are all about love. Okay. Oh, yes. Love. Okay. But, I really think it's important for a man to talk to men about this issue too. Go ahead, Tanya.
Well, I'm not a man, Jimmy, but I will come at you with my answer. I think I wonder, listening to what Brianna does, I think we as women, we instinctually carry ourselves in such a way which is in a protection mode, which is what Brianna was basically was really talking about. I wonder sometimes if I do, protect myself enough. I tend to leave the doors unlocked. I tend to move through life with more of that freewheeling, love everyone sort of approach to life. So and when I hear what Brianna does, but I'm going to fall back on my comment that, after, I'm 53, after 53 years, you learn to carry yourself in a certain way. You learn to do things in a certain fashion. But I also want to be careful not to demonize men. I like men. I absolutely like men. I love women too, but I also don't want to handicap the other half of us in this world to the point where they don't feel like they can fall back on who they are as people. So I want to be very careful there too.
Okay.
We have a problem with, we just lived through, the me, the touching. That's right. This one is what, I'm a huggy, kissy, very affectionate person. Okay. I would prefer to hug somebody than hello. And so I see that men don't know, I read a book once, men don't know how they're supposed to behave anymore. Right. Like we don't expect them to hold the door, but they were taught to hold the door. Well, not this generation.
Our generation. Yeah, I was going to say
our generation, not that generation. No, right? It's so different. It's just so different. And and Brianna, I live in Philadelphia. We just had a mass murder here on one of the busiest, trendiest streets in Philadelphia, South Street. I live near the Philadelphia Art Museum in a relatively nice neighborhood, but you better believe I am not walking around after dark. I mean, of course, who sees me anyway? I'm an old bag, but what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah, but hang on a second, but you give great hugs, Claudia. I'm going to attest to that. And Tanya, you do too. Okay. I don't want to play favorites here. All right. I haven't met Marisa or Brianna, so I can't attest to them, but I do want to go to Marisa just to get your reaction to what we've been talking about, because this is a pretty sensitive subject too.
This is, and you know what, I'm glad you're talking about this because it's really important, because I agree with Brianna and then I agree with the two other ladies as well, because one, yes, you have to protect yourself. You have to have a whereabout about you. I actually grew up in Philadelphia, Claudia. So when you said that, I knew exactly where you were. So God bless, you will be safe. But on the other hand, I've been living in New York for the last 6 years. And so living here in New York City, you literally have to walk down the street and look behind you like every couple of moments, or someone will catcall you, and it can be invasive and it is scary. And as a woman, you have to say, you know what, I have to put this shield and this guard up.
Are they still catcalling, Marisa?
Oh my, yes. And now
honey, that's because you're young and beautiful. That's why.
Yeah, let the cat calls come. I mean,
come on, baby, bring them on. Let somebody catcall me.
That's what I say. That's exactly right.
Listen, you know what? It can be flattering at times, but I will tell you the most invasive, I'll say the most like weird thing that men do, and you're just like, why? Is I will be driving and there will just be turned, staring, and I'm like,
this is what you do. You're a pretty girl.
Yes,
it makes you, as Brianna said, you want to like kind of like go like this, and you're carrying these weapons, and
I didn't feel like that when I was young, and somebody would do that. I just moved on and smiled. I waved,
I'm
whatever.
in Claudia's world. Like I tend to agree. I always took it as I may still have it.
I don't have
it. Perspective a lot. I really do, but I think there's always kind of like two sides to the coins, and maybe as like you grow and you evolve more, you say, you know what, I'm comfortable with this. I'm not scared anymore.
That's right. That's right.
On a spiritual level, I do have to say this, at times when we do feel scared, that does have to do with like inner child work. So then this goes into being that empowered women, right? As you said, you're like, hell yeah, give me these compliments. I'm back. So yeah. I do feel both of it, but honestly, I will say not all men are like that, and I'm starting to learn
They
that.
are?
And not
No,
all
they're not.
Oh,
They're
no,
not
good,
like
I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
not all men are scary like that, is what I'm saying. And I appreciate men that are like that. You know,
And you know what?
I love men.
I think Tanya and Brianna would agree with me. It's about your carriage. It's about how you look. And God damn it, it's how you take control. And that's what it's about, because if they feel that you're in control of yourself, they're not going to fuck with you. Trust me.
Well, and Marisa,
Yeah.
Claudia's right. They're literally terrified when that happens. If you're a sexually positive, sex forward person, these poor men cower like nobody's business. So you've always got the power, and let them catcall. Seriously, trust me. Ask Claudia and I. You're going to want it when you're in your late 50s.
Well, I should only be in my late 50s. Well,
well, you're looking great, Claudia. What are you talking about?
I think some of the problem is also just with like unfortunate things like school shootings or just shootings in general in any place that you go to. You have these younger generations of people constantly in a state of anxiety and fear no matter who's around them. So it's not even just when I say I'm nervous to go out, truthfully, the first thing that comes to mind isn't necessarily a man. It's just this person with a question mark over their face and me not knowing their intentions or what they plan to do around me. And that's the scariest thing.
You're right, Brianna.
I think that it's really tough, especially for women in cannabis, because not only are you fighting that situation, but you also have the stigma that all of us have to educate the public that is curious about the industry and the plant and what it does. And we all have faced instances, I'm sure, about the stigma of cannabis. And we're almost at the top of the hour, because this was great, because when I don't have to talk, I love this. Okay. And I bet the audience does too.
And we're happy too. Can I tell you, we're happy.
I know. All right. We're going to go around. Everybody gets to do a plug for their product and their event and everything, so that you guys can get a little PR on this. Brianna, tell us about the Women in Cannabis Expo and where you guys are at. I know we talked a little bit about it already. How do people find out about it?
Yeah. So Women's Cannabis Chamber of Commerce.com. We have events every quarter. Our one in Miami is actually coming up next Saturday. It's called Blunts and Brunch. It's going to be very fun. It's not any sort of cannabis expo or conference. It's really just a place for people to let their hair down, have actual conversations, and be able to find some commonalities among each other and raise each other up.
That's terrific.
And
are you
Tanya?
in the Northeast, Brianna? May I ask, are you in the Northeast?
I live right now. I'm actually in Fort Lauderdale, but I'm pretty much only here about 2 weeks out of every month. I just saw Miss Prana over here in New Jersey just a couple weeks ago. And then I think next week or the week after, I'm going to be in Colorado for about almost 2 weeks, and then somewhere else.
Nice.
So I'm sure we'll all meet each other in person, and I'll be able to experience everybody's hugs and judge that on my own in silence later.
All right, Tanya. Ooh,
yes.
Love, yes.
So oOYes.love. I think I want to direct everyone to our sex quiz, right? It's a Friday. We're heading into the weekend.
Go ahead. Throw a question out. We'll go over. I don't care. Go throw a question out if you want.
Well, I think I already hit you with the threesome. We're going to take it down a bit. I think, I think I asked you last time if you would like to be videotaped while you're messing around, and you evaded the question. I never got a straight answer, Jimmy.
So I don't like seeing,
because I know you have the equipment
clothes on. Okay. All right. I don't like seeing myself with clothes on, let alone no clothes. Okay. Just saying.
I think that's pretty honest, Jimmy.
Thank
Bravo.
You. Thank you. I try to be, Claudia, I'm painfully honest sometimes.
I know you are. And so am I.
Tanya, do you have a rock and roll question? Because I really like that one too that you did.
I do. I'm going to throw an easy one to you. It is, and if you get this one, I'm going to give you another one. So one of our products, our lickable water-based lube that has CBD, CBG, and our bee-fused honey is called Start Me Up. What is the band?
Oh, really?
Oh, it's shit. Start me up, blah blah blah. What is?
Come on, he's Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger.
Rolling Stones, right?
Yes, Rolling Stones.
I almost
so you're not going to get Going Down, because Going Down, my oral sex elixir is after Freddie King, great blues guy.
That's Jeff Beck.
Rolling Stone.
Going
Well,
down.
Jeff Beck did Going Down too, but that's a cover Jeff did off of
I guarantee
Kings, Freddie
Brianna and Marisa have no idea who Jeff
Yes,
Beck
that's
is.
okay.
all right?
But guys, so we're throwing a party. I gotta plug this.
Go
For
ahead.
Pride, we're throwing a party. If you girls are in town, Saturday,
down?
June 25th, rooftop in Rhino, which is a cool place we've got here in Denver.
Colorado.
You dress up.
Denver.
We've got a great DJ doing all 60s, 70s cuts. You wear your disco clothes, 60s, 70s groovy clothes, costume party. If you follow us on Instagram, oOYes love, we throw parties all over the place. So check us out. And that's one of those girls, you guys got to come.
I wish-
You
I
got
love
to come to
that.
our party.
Count me in.
Yeah.
I wish I could
Both of
drive to
you.
Denver.
You're,
Get
I'm
in
going to be there
here.
in Denver. I'm going to be there literally in that week. So I would absolutely love to
Listen,
go.
bring your dancing shoes. You got to wear some disco clothes. I'll get you a wig. You got to show up. I've got a
Oh, yeah.
closet full of vintage 60s, 70s clothes. You come over to my place.
I'm there.
I got you.
All
All right, seriously, you're coming.
I've lost
All
total
right.
control of the show, which doesn't.
You have. Jimmy, what's going on?
It's okay. It's all right. Mostcg.com, Claudia. How'd I do?
You did great, Jimmy.
Okay.
You always do great. What can I say?
All right. Marisa, if people want to find you in your spirituality, where do we go other than in a deep mantra, a deep, relaxing state?
You can find me on Instagram. It's butterfly.prana. You can find me on TikTok, ButterflyPrana, or my website, ButterflyPrana.com. I offer all different types of spiritual services, coaching, healing, and I will be hosting more workshops as well about healing, grounding, all of the things. So come find me. It's going to be fun.
Super. I just want to throw this out. If anybody needs anything in any of the realm that I work in, we always end with like, what can I do for you? So if I can do anything for you, let me know.
That's what it's about. Giving back and Ubuntu, which is I want to do my best to make you as good as you can be.
Exactly.
My mantra. It got the Celtics a championship in 2008, and I'm praying that we might have another one this year too. But I don't want to predict anything because I've never been a very good predictor. I just want to thank everybody for showing up and taking part in this program. You guys know I'm very passionate about what we're doing here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Remember that We Talk News follows this show. Okay. And then I'm pretty sure we're going to do Calling All Growers after that as well. So you can just kind of keep it going on Pro Cannabis Media's channel here on our network. So for everybody, Dan and Isabel of Pro Cannabis Media, I'm Jimmy Young, the founder. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Coming up on We Talk News this week, is safe banking for the cannabis industry on the U.S. Senate agenda? Just don't expect legalization or descheduling anytime soon. We talk exclusively with Aaron Smith, Executive Director of the NCIA. Plus, the mayors of major U.S. cities put their muscle behind that safe banking movement. And state reform takes a hit in Delaware but makes progress in North Carolina. Dutchie, a leader in the dispensary CRM tech space, has a major layoff with 7% of its workforce sent home with pink slips. State-by-state reports, including New York, where the Senate there passes a bill mandating health insurance reimbursement for medical marijuana users. All that and more on We Talk News with Elena Pinto, next. Cannabis Media original content is supported by Salient Systems, your trusted name in video surveillance for the cannabis industry, and by Revolutionary Clinics, Massachusetts' #1 medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Accounting Buds, CPA services for the cannabis industry, and by stylighting.shop. Log on today to get your grow kit.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to We Talk News. I'm Elena Pinto reporting for Pro Cannabis Media. It's been more than a month since there's been any significant movement with cannabis on Capitol Hill. And while the federal government may be dragging its feet, it seems some local leaders are ready to step up to the plate. So earlier this week, the U.S. Conference of Mayors met for their annual gathering. And this year, they adopted a proposal to focus on cannabis banking reform, urging members of Congress to pass the Safe Banking Act. The organization also adopted a separate measure calling for an end to federal cannabis prohibition and promoting social equity in the industry. So what's the holdup federally? Well, some of the members of the National Cannabis Industry Association say they think they know the reason. The NCIA is on a 3-city membership tour in New York this week, sponsored by Canna Advisors. The tour stopped in Albany, where our own Jimmy Young spoke with NCIA's Aaron Smith about why safe banking is stalled.
But what's interesting though is this is an everyday battle for everybody who's trying to see any progress in Washington. Nothing's happening. The Senate isn't getting anything done thanks to the filibuster. I think that we also have some just severe dysfunction in that. And I'll say this because we're here in New York, is that there's one man who can get safe banking passed today, and that's Chuck Schumer. He's decided instead to focus his efforts on other bills that we support greatly. But his broader view of how we should reform cannabis in this country, which we absolutely applaud, but he doesn't have the votes for that. So we'd like to see is let's bring up something that does have the 60 votes. We think we have the 60 votes for safe banking, and
you do.
And then let's talk about something that we can move beyond that. Instead, it's letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. And we're seeing it in almost every other issue on the Hill right now.
Advocates are desperate to see some kind of significant legislation actually become law. Senator Steve Daines, sponsor of the Safe Banking Act, even put out an ad this week with top banking officials talking about how reform is needed. Vote Pro Podcast's Phil Adams is in Washington, D.C. with a closer look.
Hi, I'm Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast, and this is the Weed Talk News D.C. report. A Republican senator has released a TV commercial promoting the passage of the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act. Senator Steve Daines of Montana is one of the sponsors of the bill designed to protect banks that serve state legal cannabis businesses from federal penalties. The ad features Carrie Hegerberg, CEO of the Montana Bankers Association, who says, quote, "Our banks want to do the right thing in their communities, and they need certainty that they won't be punished for serving legal businesses." To date, the Safe Banking Act has passed the House in various forms no fewer than 6 times. It has, however, hit a roadblock in the upper chamber, where Senate leaders are focused on passing a comprehensive legalization bill. The Treasury Department has proposed an initiative to collect data on cannabis businesses from banks as part of its broader program to combat money laundering. In a notice posted in the Federal Register this week, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency says it plans to begin including the tracking of cannabis businesses in the risk summary form that financial institutions are required to file each year. As part of their money laundering risk system, the OCC currently tracks data from other types of businesses such as liquor stores, car dealers, casinos, and convenience stores, and are also looking to add crypto assets and ATM operators. The DC City Council approved a measure to protect its employees who use cannabis. In a unanimous vote, the City Council expanded on previous legislation that offered protection only to DC government workers. The new bill would prohibit employers in the district from firing, failing to hire, or taking other punitive actions against an individual for using cannabis. Some exceptions are enumerated in the bill, most notably regarding positions designated as safety sensitive. The legislation is now headed to the desk of DC Mayor Muriel Bowser. Those are the headlines from the nation's capital. I'm Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast.
Back in the U.S., North Carolina is now a step closer to going green. Legislation that would make medical cannabis legal cleared the state Senate earlier this week with no debate. The bill would create a new state commission to issue 10 medical cannabis supplier licenses, each of which could open up to 8 sales centers. The bill now goes to the House, where it may be a long shot to pass before this year's primary work session adjourns in a few weeks. And the grass isn't so green in Delaware. Governor John Carney recently vetoed a bill to legalize adult use cannabis. Lawmakers had been fighting for access, passing the bill in both the House and Senate, only for the governor to stop the legislation in its tracks. And unfortunately, this week, a bid to override that veto fell short by just 5 votes. So unfortunately, Delaware remains in the dark ages for now. So let's see what else is happening, though, in the Northeast this week. Jessie Lynn Dolan has our Vermont report.
I'm Jessie Lynn Dolan from Nurse Grown Organics and Vermont Cannabis Nurses, and this is the Weed Talk News Vermont report. Last week, Governor Phil Scott signed an omnibus bill into law that covers a variety of cannabis-related concerns, including regulating small cultivators as farming, which allows for sales tax exemptions. It also makes employee identification cards transferable throughout the Vermont cannabis industry and lets licensed cultivators sell seeds and clones to other licensed cultivators and wholesalers. The bill also states that cannabis flower can be in child deterrent packaging rather than child resistant. The most controversial aspect of the bill was capping THC in solids and concentrates sold to the public at 60% and requires the Cannabis Control Board to issue an end-of-year report to the legislator on how these THC caps affect the marketplace. On Monday, the Cannabis Control Board approved 8 more operating licenses, 5 of which were social equity applicants. This Vermont cannabis nurse will be at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. this week, lobbying for nurses nationwide and medical cannabis, of course. That's the Vermont report for Weed Talk News. I'm Vermont's cannabis nurse, Jessie Lynn Dolan.
Also on the East Coast, new updates from New York. A first-of-its-kind taxpayer-funded marijuana PSA aired in most of the state during Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Latino New Yorkers were 8 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis than white New Yorkers over the past 30 years. Black New Yorkers, 15 times more likely.
The ad boldly addresses the racially discriminatory harms of cannabis criminalization and highlights steps that state regulators are taking to right the wrongs of prohibition. This week, the New York Senate approved a bill that would require public health insurance programs to cover medical marijuana expenses. The legislation also clarifies that private insurers are allowed to do the same, meaning cannabis cannot be the reason they deny someone coverage. The state Senate also voted to approve a bill to crack down on the state's cannabis gray market, giving regulators the authority to seize illicit weed and increasing fines for unlicensed operators. Now let's travel next door to see what's happening in this week's New Jersey report with Jill Goldsberry.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jill Goldsberry in Jersey with the New Jersey Cannabis News for We Talk News. And tonight, in fact, the Garden State is hosting its very first Cannabis Awards Gala. Yes, in fact, New Jersey Cannabis Insider is hosting this very special event. It's the first ever Cannabis Awards Gala, celebrating the individuals and companies that have helped shape the industry. It's a formal affair at the Cataract Performing Arts Center. And from what we understand, it'll be unlike anything New Jersey has seen before in the cannabis space. So look out for more news on that. And in fact, Pro Cannabis Media has a little bit of the inside scoop on that. We've learned of the winner of the event's first award and who it goes to. So today we'd like to congratulate the inaugural winner of the 2022 Lifetime Achievement Award, which goes to Bill Caruso. Bill Caruso chairs the cannabis group for Archer and Greener PC. He also serves as managing director of Archer Public Affairs. And in fact, he was general counsel for the New Jersey Cannabis Association. So he's pretty well connected in the industry. And in fact, in 2020, he was part of the spearheading of the November 2020 ballot initiative to legalize cannabis for personal use. So he has definitely done quite a lot for the industry. So we want to congratulate you, Bill Caruso. And in other news, if you love gambling or just hitting the whole scene in Atlantic City, this one is for you. Atlantic City is poising itself to become the latest hub for cannabis on the East Coast. And that comes from Kashawn McKinley, the Director of Constituent Services and Special Projects for Atlantic City. So from what we understand, Atlantic City wants to use marijuana sales to increase tourism. And in fact, the city is in an impact zone. So which under the new state cannabis law gives it priority for certain cannabis licenses, plus resources and funding from the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. According to McKinley, the city of Atlantic City wants to use the new cannabis industry as an addition to what they already have to offer. So look out for that. It sounds like Atlantic City is the place to be this summer. I'm Jill Goldsberry in New Jersey with the New Jersey Report for Cannabis News, and that is it for us. Thanks.
You probably know Dr. Oz from TV, but did you also know he's now running for a Pennsylvania Senate seat? And he may have just lost some steam with cannabis users. In a recent interview, Dr. Oz said, quote, "There are not enough Pennsylvanians to work in Pennsylvania, so giving them pot so they stay home is not, I don't think, an ideal move." The state is struggling to keep up economically with its neighbors as they all give adult use cannabis the green light. So we'll have to see if that statement impacts Dr. Oz's support for that Senate seat. Claudia Post has the rest of this week's Pennsylvania report.
I'm Claudia Post from Scarlet Express, and I'm here in the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, reporting for We Talk News. What's the difference between Dr. Oz and the Wizard of Oz? The wizard admitted he was a fraud. So here's someone I'd like to get in a room with and figure out what's going on in his head, because Dr. Oz has become the Pennsylvania State Republican Senate nominee. And recently he said that legalizing recreational cannabis in Pennsylvania would make people lose their motivation to go to work. He also said there are not enough Pennsylvanians to work in Pennsylvania. So giving them pot so they stay home is not an ideal move. What an idiot. He also added that marijuana may be a hindrance to giving Pennsylvanians back their mojo. Well, mojo this, Dr. Oz, you aren't even a Pennsylvanian really. So, you need to go home, or you need to let me sit you down and tell you all about cannabis. And now here we have another brilliant move. The Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court judge ordered a temporary injunction last Thursday on a February recall of vape products by the state's cannabis regulators, which, by the way, sent everybody into a tizzy because they had to recall a couple 100,000 vapes, which is lots of money. So the cannabis regulators cited a lack of scientific evidence for the recall presented by the state. Okay, let's have a law because there's no proof. Although attorneys for the state presented no rebuttal evidence during the injunction hearing, within 24 hours of the judge's orders, state regulators submitted a notice of their plan to appeal the decision. Oh, Pennsylvania. Curaleaf in Belmar, a New Jersey dispensary, is booming thanks to Pennsylvanians' bad weed laws and Pennsylvanians going over the border into New Jersey to score some bud. The Curaleaf location is located just a short drive over the PA-New Jersey border from Philadelphia. The store's bud tenders are selling roughly 11 packs of 3.5 grams of marijuana permitted during business hours. So in other words, they're selling all this 3.5 grams permitted during business hours. That's a lot of marijuana because people are going over the border. Now, my state is really dopey, as you heard. The laws are not taking into account all of the dollars that would be collected, as well as there's nothing wrong with cannabis, it's the plant. Federal and state laws forbid visitors from taking cannabis across state lines, but that doesn't seem to be stopping a lot of Pennsylvanians from driving over the border. So here's the story. When I was younger, we used to drive over the border into New Jersey to get liquor. This is not new, folks. I did it, and they're doing it now for marijuana. Well, that's a wrap from Pennsylvania. I'm Claudia Post from Scarlet Express, and I'll be back next week to talk about what's hot and what's not in Pennsylvania. From We Talk News, have a fab week.
Another slap, much to the shock of cannabis industry workers. Dutchie, a software startup based in Oregon that serves cannabis retailers, has recently laid off 7% of its workers. The cuts reportedly impacted the production and recruiting teams, with many now former employees taking to the internet to share their hardship. And Dutchie is one of several cannabis tech companies to make cuts lately in the wake of ongoing economic uncertainty. On the other end of the spectrum, there's another company expanding its efforts. Planet 13, one of the country's largest retail chains, continues to grow out of this world. The company has announced a third store to open in Florida, with plans to open 3 more and aiming to target underserved areas. Heather Allman has more in this week's Florida Report.
Thank you, Elena. Here with your weekly Florida Report from We Talk News, I'm Heather Allman from Cannabis Law Report. On Tuesday, members of Trulieve's senior management team purchased newly available company stock for $14.45 a share. CEO Kim Rivers acquired 14,000 additional shares this week, totaling $202,000, bringing her total ownership to just under 2.5 million shares. In addition, Trulieve CFO Alex D'Amico acquired 1,500 shares, and President Steve White bought 7,000 shares. In recent days, 9 administrative staff members have purchased a combined total of 31,650 shares of Trulieve. Trulieve shares were up 5% on Thursday, but overall the stock has lost 43% of its value in 2022. Notably, there have been very few published research articles investigating medical students' perceptions of cannabis. By perceptions, the study is referring to the students' attitudes towards the benefit of cannabis as a medicine, concerns for potential adverse effects, and willingness to prescribe it to patients in future practice. For the purposes of curriculum enhancement, a new study by Robin Jacobs and Michael Kane investigated and assessed the student perceptions of cannabis. Between January and March 2022, quantitative data was collected from 526 medical students enrolled in a large unnamed medical school in Florida using a voluntary electronic survey. The 32-item questionnaire investigated medical student perceptions of cannabis anonymously and quickly, taking a mere 10 minutes to complete. Using principal component analysis, 3 factors were identified that the current cannabis curriculum does not cover. Number 1, perceived knowledge of medical cannabis. Number 2, concern for possible adverse effects such as potential for misuse or dependence. And number 3, attitudes about cannabis having an acceptable role in medicine, which examined factors like the willingness of future physicians to help patients access cannabis, the importance of obtaining cannabis training in school and residency, and the benefits of cannabis for certain health conditions. According to the researchers, the study's findings are uniquely valuable for identifying the future educational needs of medical students and other health professionals regarding cannabis, and this should serve as a foundation for future cannabis curriculum research. In other news, veterans are self-medicating, according to Ryan Morales, who is a Democratic candidate for Florida Agriculture Commissioner. As part of his platform, Morales vowed to push Florida to legalize psychedelic drugs for medicinal purposes, much like medical cannabis in 2016, which Morales currently uses. According to a new interview with Florida Politics, he believes the emerging clinical research on psychedelics such as magic mushrooms demonstrates powerful medicinal potential, especially with symptoms of mental illnesses which directly affect thousands of veterans, such as polytrauma and PTSD. Morales wants to make sure that Florida legalizes psilocybin from mushrooms and psychedelics for medicinal use in order to, quote, help your police, your vets, and people who deal with traumatic incidents on a daily basis, such as EMTs and first responders. Morales is a tech entrepreneur from Claremont with a long shot candidacy for Agriculture Commissioner. He's one of two Democrats who's filed just last month with hopes of succeeding Democrat Nikki Fried, who is running for governor instead of re-election. He has run unsuccessfully twice for the Florida House in Lake County and has pressed for expanded legalization of cannabis in all of his campaigns. He is currently working to visit all 67 counties in the state and reports the best conversations he's had with constituents have been about full cannabis legalization and psychedelics. That's a wrap for the We Talk News Florida Report. I'm Heather Almond from Cannabis Law Report.
A new partnership in the Bay State, bringing weed right to your front door. Lantern, a cannabis e-commerce marketplace and delivery platform, is teaming up with Doobie, a woman-owned company which will use its licensed depot location to help Lantern fulfill delivery orders. Ron Marshalsea has much more from Massachusetts this week.
I'm Ron Marshalsea for We Talk News. This is the Massachusetts Cannabis Report. There might be a new dispensary opening up at the Long Wharf in Boston. This idea won a vote of support from an aldermanic committee that greenlit the legal sale of marijuana where the new dispensary hopes to move into, the soon-to-be former home of the Long Wharf Theater. The vote came Tuesday night at a Board of Alders Legislation Committee meeting, which was held in the aldermanic chamber on the second floor of City Hall. Keep in mind, though, Tuesday's vote does not mean that any cannabis company will definitely set up a dispensary on Sargent Drive, but it does make it more of a possibility. Lantern, an e-commerce marketplace and delivery platform, announced that they have partnered with Doobie in Massachusetts. Doobie is a customer-centric cannabis delivery service and a woman-owned platform and certified economic empowerment priority applicant through Massachusetts CCC. Meredith Mahoney, co-founder and CEO of Lantern, was quoted as saying, "Working with an innovator such as Erica Kennedy of Doobie is truly a privilege, and we are excited to see how we can expand delivery service within the Massachusetts area. Doobie is an ideal partner as we expand our presence throughout the state because of its commitment to improving the communities it serves. Every purchase of its diverse product is used to support Doobie's Positive Impact Plan, which supports local communities who have been disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs. Doobie will directly fulfill delivery orders placed on LanternNow.com through its licensed depot, and customers in 150 zip codes throughout the Bay State will have access to quality national and local brands. And finally, Commonwealth Alternative Care will be opening a nude medical dispensary in Cambridge. Their new shop, located at 1385 Cambridge Street in Ingham Square, will offer a wide selection of products from their house brands, including flower, concentrates, edibles, and topicals. That's this week's Massachusetts Cannabis Report. For We Talk News, I'm Ron Marshalsea.
Bay State Cannabis Report is supported by Holyoke Cannabis, Holyoke's finest cannabis recreational experience.
The Show Me State showing out this weekend for the 15th National Clinical Conference on Cannabis Therapeutics. Patients Out of Time is an organization that's been providing science-based education about cannabis therapeutics for medical professionals, caregivers, patients, and the public for more than 25 years. And our own Brandon Jones is at their event with this week's Missouri Report.
All right, hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones again from Distribution Maven with Missouri Cannabis Report for We Talk News. And I'm actually here at the Patients Out of Time event for the registration. You can see behind me, there's this awesome room in here. Great chandelier, lots of drinks, wonderful people out here with educators talking about it, live music outside. And for those of you that aren't aware, Patients Out of Time is the conference that's actually given continued education credits to doctors and nurses that's training about and learning about the endocannabinoid system and beyond. So yes, they're actually giving continued education credits to doctors and nurses here in Kansas City for going to a cannabis conference. It's here Thursday through Saturday. Right, only 1 mile away is where I'm at right now from the Kansas border. If you don't know, obviously cannabis is still not legal in Kansas, so this is a great time, and we're very happy to have all the science doctors, nurses here to come, get a little bit more education here to the Missouri and the Midwest. Normally this is them on the East Coast, so we're very, very grateful for Dolores Havla and April Hatch for putting on this event. So thank you very much. Again, check out patientsoutaftime.com. Great event, great conference. If you haven't registered, there's still time to register for the conference. So I'm Brandon Jones from Distribution Maven, from Missouri Cannabis Report for We Talk News. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great week.
Regulators in Washington state looking to fine-tune the state's cannabis grows. This week, regulators approved updated rules on pesticide action levels on cannabis plants. Josh Kincaid has a closer look at what's happening in Washington state this week.
I'm Josh Kincaid from the Talking Hedge with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Washington drivers can get a DUI after cannabis use. Washingtonians can receive a DUI for driving after using cannabis, according to the state Supreme Court, after they concluded a decision upholding the state's decision, a decade-old law regarding cannabis use behind the wheel of a car. So the argument was based on an arbitrary 5 nanogram per milliliter limit and vague standards for THC levels in the blood. It was argued in court that the limit was not correlated to any real measure of impairment and was therefore arbitrary, vague, and unconstitutional. A doctor even testified to the effects given, and THC can vary significantly from person to person depending on body fat, frequency of cannabis use, etc. And although the justices acknowledged that the correlation between levels and impairment is challenging to pinpoint, they still found that the blood measurements nevertheless provided a useful and constitutionally accepted measurement. The justices agreed that impairment standards based solely on THC blood concentration can't be generalized to the entire population, but they still disagreed that meant the state standard was vague or arbitrary. They said, quote, "The laws aim to deter people who have consumed cannabis from driving when there is a possibility they could be impaired, thus promoting some public interest of highway safety. It's reasonable to assume the law will continue to do just that. The highways will be safer because of it." Next week, you guys are going to find out more about Washington State's cannabis scene, but with that, we're going to have to roll up this Washington State Cannabis Report. I'm Josh Kincaid from the Talking Hedge reporting for Weed Talk News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
And finally, a new study from the University of New Mexico is shattering stoner stereotypes. Daily Lobo reported the findings, which say cannabis consumers showed more empathy, pro-social behaviors, and moral decision-making than non-users. The lead psychologist says he was motivated to conduct the study when he heard a lecture claiming cannabis users were less motivated by money. And apparently, adults with THC in their system scored higher than non-users on categories like pro-social behaviors, empathy, moral harmlessness, and moral fairness. Who would have thought? Maybe cannabis can help you make good choices. After all, it is a whole new world of weed out there, so keep using it wisely. I'm Elena Pinto for Pro Cannabis Media. We'll see you next time.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
Difference is building a solution for that individual, not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the costs low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information. Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
Welcome to Calling All Growers. This is your live show, and I am your host, Liz Grow. As you know, there is nothing more valuable than to spend time and learn from the best cultivators in the game. And that is exactly what we are bringing you here tonight. I am so excited to introduce our first guest of the show. He is a lifetime cultivator and true OG. Breeder Greg OG is with me tonight, and he's here to tell us some stories of the olden days, if I may, before legalization really hit, and there was still a very, very, very high, there was just a high desire for cannabis in the country, and it's because of people like Breeder Greg OG that the country was able to get their medicine. So Greg, I'm so happy to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and spread the word of the way it used to be in the, back in the days when we were struggling to get stoned, and we started getting our first taste on the streets was Mexican, about $15 an ounce. And so the adults would wait for our younger kids to come up around the corner and make us smoke that stuff before we even got our hands on any of that gold. And that went pretty much to like 40 an ounce. So
wow,
that was a lesson to be learned. It was really, really harsh stuff. And I guess it may have been the stuff that was when they used to ferment the weed, they had stuff on the outside. It was ammonia-like stuff. It's just for fermenting. They had to throw a bunch away before they got actually to the nice golden colored stuff that they
Oh,
exported out. And they did that so it wouldn't lose its potency as it would travel around the world, because there was a demand for it worldwide by 1964.
wow. Wait.
Gold was just worldwide, recognized
Yes.
everywhere.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's one of the most classic, widely known strains in cannabis. I mean, I think even non-smokers know when you say Acapulco Gold, you're talking about the good stuff. But before we dive into all of the rich history that you have and everything I think you have to teach us tonight, talk to me a little bit about where you are right now and what makes you really the breeder and the cultivator here on Calling All Growers Tonight to teach other cultivators.
Well, right now I live in the Ozark Highlands. It's not the best soil in the world, but it was famous for growing cannabis in the soil. And any of the old school smokers loved anything to come out of the Ozarks. Things were being inbred lines were, Acapulco Gold, Colombian Gold. They were all being inbred by these in Arkansas and lower Missouri. They were all working together in the Ozark Mountains, and they developed their own little strains. And those strains were actually going all over the place, because true Acapulco Gold took like 18 to 20 weeks flowering. That didn't include it drying and the rest of the time it went down before they could actually ship it here. So what became known as Ozark Gold. Sorry, and this is like, if you look at a movie, 1973 Acapulco Gold, which was started filming in 1971, you can see that New York and California were both being arrested coming in to these areas trying to sneak it back to the West and the East Coast. It was something special that we enjoyed many years of growing it. Nice, beautiful colors. Had in the Ozarks, it's tended to get that nice Milky Way resiny, pull it apart and just stick it back. It was just beautiful. The high was so, exceptional on it. It was unreal. Nothing like it to this day,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a craze, man. I mean, it caught the nation by storm, and that's all folks wanted. But you were telling me that the strain that you grew in the Ozarks was not actually Acapulco Gold, but a variation of Acapulco Gold called Ozarks
more
Gold.
of the inbred, because you were having Colombian Gold seeds, you were having Acapulco seeds, you had Panama Red, you had a few little selection to play with.
Okay.
So in that spectrum, there was even some Afghan coming in. So it was already generating in the Midwest. They even had a thing called Midwest skunk, back way years ago, because people were already experimenting. To me, the skunk note truly comes from the Afghan side, because it's real rich. You can almost, to this day, you can still find plenty of skunk aroma coming out of the Afghan.
Yeah.
Strain,
Yeah. I think it's funny when people, they think they understand what true skunk smells like, but they don't until they really smell it. It really smells like a damn skunk, a freshly sprayed.
The good side of the pea that comes on whatever that spray is. And you could smell it forever, and it's just the aroma. It's definitely something to do probably with the way it was grown outdoors. I truly believe if you're gonna get good skunk aroma and what it does, it has to be grown under the sun. I don't think you can achieve it indoors. You can get, mimic it, but outdoors it's a combination of a lot of things that have to come together for it. Sulfur's good for it to bring out the terps, for that and stuff. But it can be done. We smoke lots and lots of skunk for so many years in the Midwest. It just flooded the market with all different types that would get you spaced out, mellowed out. And about 1985, a new come in, and it was really strong and really potent. And boy, we love that stuff. It could have been the 85 roadkill skunk, but after about 2 ounces, we was like, hey man, we're a little burnt out on this. It was fun. So
yeah,
burnout was a thing that didn't exist until we started seeing the green coming in from California called Simplifya. We didn't like it at all. We smoked a real small pinner of it. 12 of us were really, really stoned. We liked that part. But about a week, 2 weeks later, we're like, hey man, this ain't working no more. What's up? Because we were spoiled rotten with the Ozark Gold, Colombian Gold, Acapulco Gold. These never burned you out. You was gonna definitely be Chinese eyes, munchies for 4 hours, stoned. It was just something you could count on, and it just kept doing it over and over. Probably the fermented part of it may have had a lot to do with it, being so successful in America.
Right, right. I mean, just that consistency of power. You hear that from a lot of people who are heavy smokers and consumers of cannabis, that they do have the burnout. They feel like they plateau. Oh, I smoked too much Tangy, in 2020. I can't, look at
Right,
the
yeah,
stuff.
good way to put it. Yeah, that's about the truth of it. We shouldn't have to smoke more in a joint. Like I say, if you don't do the trick off of one joint, then throw it away and get something better, because that ain't the stuff you should be growing in the first place.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
I
No.
like to grow a strain called garlic bud. It's never burns me out. It's actually Jim Ortega, who created a lot of strains for Neville,
Mhm.
Showing Makers, Seed Bank. The garlic bud that he grew out were his garlic phenotypes of his skunk plant. So it's related to the skunk. So you're going to get that great high where music sounds so great. You feel the sense of well-being is overwhelming, and you got lots of energy. It's my go-to every day.
Oh man, God, you're making me jealous down here in Texas. Uh, I find those strains are hard to find. The one that makes you feel kind of like, and I think you'll appreciate this word, groovy. You know what
Right.
I mean? Just good and happy, and you have that sense of community and belonging. It's just such a nice feeling, and I feel like cannabis nowadays is a big race to THC, and that gives a different effect. I feel like the higher, the commercial indoor grown strains, I mean, it's like, I don't know,
Right.
more intense, not so much groovy, but
Yeah, the anxiety level goes up with that high amount of THC. And they've done a study out of Nevada, said that these newer strains, high THC, are destabilizing at an alarming rate. So I don't know where it's headed, the future of it. But if you go
yes.
into the land races, like Acapulco Gold developed itself in that environment, in that area, in the Guerrero Mountains, is
Mhm.
where it was grown, but it was just different because of the environment and everything. But it was a land race, so it produced like that over and over again. So you might want to go
Yes.
backwards instead of trying to go forward into these new strains, and develop your strains from areas that haven't been, developed through cannabis industry. China's been out of the game a lot. A lot of areas are just locked out from people coming in and,
Mhm.
and collecting pollen and seeds.
Right, right. Talk to me about that. We had a pretty robust, I think, email conversation, about this back and forth about, new school and old school, different ways of thinking, and, assimilation. Really, it feels again like today's breeders and cultivators are, it's a race, it's a business, it's a different kind of mindset. What are you finding with the new school breeders versus the old school?
I feel that they're mocking the way we used to do everything the old way. And, when you used to buy your weed from somebody who just grew in their closet or backyard, the minimal waste, what it did to the environment was hardly any damage.
Mhm.
Now they've got this monstrous scale business, and they don't know what they're doing. Eventually stuff does lead into the rivers and stuff. And while
Yeah.
they're mocking the way we did things, they're not doing anything better with the way they're doing things either. And it
Mm.
needs to go back to a more of a natural farming, throughout the community. We don't need the chemicals, the fertilizer, heavy, stuff to dump on this. There's alternatives,
Yeah.
and a lot of us old schoolers know the alternatives. I use cucumber peeling ashes, and I use wood ashes. I mean, that'll get me through flowering pretty much all the way through, nothing else needed.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
that's not a lot of damage, and that's easy stuff to collect. And
Mhm.
so there's just little tricks to use, and manure and in your veg stage, like rabbit, that's really good to use because it's slow releasing, and it, works year round. There's things, and that's about all you really need to do to it. You don't have to put too much on the plant. Just kind of look at it to tell you if it needs something and learn what it needs, you know. Like today, we can really get to understand our plants better instead of running them through the woods, tucking them in fence lines, pulling off the yellow leaves. We used to call them tattletales, you know, because you get busted above, they see them yellow leaves. And, you know, it was a lot of work doing all that stuff. And now we've got an opportunity to get closer to it, you know, and learn how it develops in weather, how, you know, cold tolerant. These are things that are going to help the future in growing, you know, more stable plants for our area.
Right. Right. I see what you mean when you say it feels like, you know, they're going in the opposite direction. They're rushing when in fact we can learn so much about the way that things, you know, were done to start with, because you had to rush in a sense. You had to, you know, watch your plants and you know, destroy them, you know, if someone was coming around for your freedom. Talk to me about that. How long have you been growing? When did you start growing?
Oh, I'd say I started growing probably in late 70s, early 80s. And by 85, I was indoor growing places, you know, and learning through. Neville started coming out, you know, High Times had the seed bank, and they were, you know, advertising on there. And boy, we got all excited about that because the gold rush was over of weed, and, you know, we needed something new. And it just picked up from there, and the whole world started growing inside and learning new ways to do it. And it took off in the right direction, you know, for growing for us that needed new strains. And Neville put out the best you could get. I got garlic bud in 1990. He had it in the catalog in 89, 90. I was already smoking it, and it's, you know, just incredible, nothing else like it. And
yeah,
too bad we've lost him in March 30th, 2019. He passed away. And
that is a tragedy. I didn't know that. Now, if you don't mind, for our audience, tell us who Neville is and why he's so significant to cannabis cultivation, breeding more specifically.
Right. Well, he was one of the first to advertise in High Times directly, but the United States government targeted him for that, and so they went after him, and he had to, you know, flee to another country and all kinds of stuff. Wound up going to prison for a little bit, and he's known as the king of cannabis because he went in and seeked out wild hemp plants like ruderalis, that's what I call them. And he tried to develop strains from it. This is something that's really hard to do because you can take a land race, which is semi-domesticated, but he was actually looking for something new, which pretty much popped up the autoflower plant, which he pretty much created the autoflower plant. And a lot of his time and effort was the court battles, but he always would come to forums if he had time, you know, and speak about what happened, real close to the public, very open heart, you know, philosopher, said some things against the New World Order and things like that. So he's not the type of guy you'd put up on a pedestal, you know, to be your guy you want to talk about. So they pretty much have tried to wipe him off the internet because of his beliefs that are anti-globalism, you know, and more freedom-based, you know. And in the end, he was working on, you know, cancer treatments and cures and stuff. So he lived a very honorable life. And I was hoping that people, you know, have like a National Neville Day, like every March 30th for him, you know, honor him. That'd be nice, you know.
I love that. 3:30, National Neville Day. Or just Neville Day for the world, Global Neville Day. Yeah, and he's also, if I'm not mistaken, the breeder who brought haze to life.
Right. And I believe that Dwight G.I.F.T had a little bit to do with that haze breeding too. He was part of that. He was, you know, he was Neville's right-hand man. He's just a phenomenal master grower, and he's the guy, you know.
Yeah, very cool.
They were pretty much teaching Chong together, you know, Neville and Dwight, you know. He's got a lot of good memories about what they did together back in the day.
Oh man, I would love to hear them. You'll have to bring your friend Dwight on.
Yeah, that'd be great. Love to see him on there.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Well, so I did mention at the top of the show that we had two incredible, iconic guests tonight. One, of course, is breeder OG Greg with me from Missouri. I'm giving you credit for Ozark Gold. I know you won't take it, but I'm going to give it to you. You got credit for Ozark Gold. But
That's for sure.
But we have another guest on the show tonight, Alfie McKenzie, aka Reefer Man Genetics, also of Old School Breeders Association, will be joining us a little bit later. But Greg, before he comes on, tell me some stories about Alfie. How do you guys know each other?
Well, I met him through him holding Neville's genetics, and pretty much he's got everyone's genetics, a piece of it, and his respect for him and the work that he does with breeding is second to none. He does things that no one does. He don't rush it. He does it right. And just throughout the years, I've had questions, needed a friend. They've always been there to answer it off his website. And he's just a phenomenal person in this business when it comes to trust and long-term strains that are just phenomenal, second to none. They keep me happy, and your friends love you because you got the good.
You got the Reefer Man. Oh, Greg, I think you're on mute. 1 second, Greg. I can't quite hear you. You're on mute. Sorry. We just started talking about Reefer Man's genetics and the computer couldn't take it.
Yeah. Did it just cut out on us?
Yeah. No, it just I couldn't hear you, and it's just like it was torture because I wanted to hear about it.
Right.
No,
so
but
you want me to start over, or that's live TV for you?
Hey, yeah, that's live. No, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. You were just saying that you were pretty much the life of the party when you show up with a Reefer Man.
That's
or
right.
Reefer Man nug or
People love
two.
you when you got the good stuff, and all the credit truly goes to him. He's the man behind it,
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that the newer stuff that I grow, I wouldn't go anywhere else but him, It's just, now there's another friend of mine, Swami Organic Seeds. That's this plant right here,
Yes,
that's
I was
in the
going to
middle
ask
of
you.
a breeding project right here,
Ooh, tell me more.
And well, it was a female that rivaled the male, and which is nice always to have that. And so this is going to be an early one on the season, so I can hurry up and get some seeds off of this, and then sprout me some, get me a good little male, and then I can back cross into the ones that I've got outside, so I can almost get two things done at once this season without having to. If I get lucky, there might be time. It's a test grow to see 30 days up here, pollinate the male and female because they were the best ones. And then let's take them to the ones that have been outdoor all year, with the new one that comes up. So it's a lot of work to get in. Not a lot of time left in life to grow. I'll be 55 this year. So I'm just counting the days down to how many grows I'm going to have before I'm gone. It's kind of strange to say that, but I hope to get, a lot more in, 4 months about early as you can get one in. So I got to hurry up and do a lot of short grows so I can get a taste of everything before I go.
Wow, that is that's something else. That's a great way to think about life. How many harvests can you get in? How many new creations can you bring to life?
Yeah.
And new science experiments can you do? Because you're really, experimenting on yourself. I bet it's just such a magical thing being able to be the first person to smoke what you've created.
It is. It's the power that God has given us, to feel super accomplished in something like this. It is an accomplishment when you can deliver the perfect smoke to everyone, and the world loves it. And the world went crazy over one strain. They bought it for 10 years. They didn't want anything else. Something else come along, fine, but they wanted this, Acapulco Gold,
yeah,
the good Colombian Gold, which a lot of the Colombian Gold was dark looking, and so the spectrum of it was, some of it was really psychedelic on the heavy side, like geared towards the Hawaiians and stuff. Hawaiian was your top smoke back in the day because it just lifted you off. You felt so good on it. It had no anxiety, paranoia feel it to it compared to, the Acapulco Gold. You felt so paranoid off that stuff. And it was just, that's all we needed back then. And then hash come in and it's like, oh, the party was on,
Oh,
Brown Lebanese and black hash. That's all we smoked growing up. We were just smokers all the way up till 13, 14, maybe a little bit older, until we started drinking beer. We was all about getting high. A great neighborhood to grow up in, that's for sure.
That's right. Spanish Lakes, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, talk to before we go to break, why don't we talk a little bit about that Spanish Lakes documentary that you were featured in?
Yeah, we we partied, and so we, for some strange reason, we decided to have this reunion, because all we really did was party. So we're just going to get together and party and play some music like we did before. We had concerts all the time, growing up ourselves, Well, this guy comes in from California and wants to do a documentary about us. And it wound up being a documentary on white flight, which our whole neighborhood was like, hey, what's going on here? We just smoked some Acapulco Gold and stuff. We didn't want to get involved in no this or that, but we didn't leave because of white flight. We left because the policy of the law and our will to grow right off the river, because we was right off the riverbanks of the Mississippi, real close to it. The cops chased me out of there, and I'm sure most of them, we had some really mean cops growing up in St. Louis County. And Tom Burke was like the most fierce cop you could ever run into, but he was good with kids at the same time. The only ones that got in trouble were the ones that really needed it from him, but he's a stand-up officer for back in them times. And all they did back then was just throw your weed on the ground. They never really hauled you in for that. Dump your bag out. That's all they did. Even at the height of it being illegal, throw it out here, dump it over there. It's like, all right, just go back and get it again. That's how it used to work,
Wow.
So all best they do is, if the cops, we'd make fun of them. Hey, they just made us dump it out,
Yeah.
But who knows? They just didn't want to deal with it, I guess, back in them times,
No, now I think they might have some more prisons to fill. So unfortunately, yeah. But I love that. I love that you were on this documentary, you and your friends and really family from Spanish Lakes, because you're just partiers and having a good time, and just sounds like a great way to live. Growing weed,
so
run
free,
from the cops.
it was so free, and everyone was so talented, playing instruments, and the music that come out of there was just fantastic, unbelievable. We even had a big old party where all the St. Louis County cops come down and stuff, and they supposedly a knife stabbing. We didn't have violence and stuff, but we just partied, and there was about 100 cops started grabbing cups and started drinking beer with us that whole night. We was jamming, drinking beer and smoking with the cops. It was just, at one point, and this is during it being illegal, the reasons why the numbers weren't up, because they weren't arresting anyone for it back in them days, just making them dump it out and things like that,
Yeah.
But like you said, the money game coming involved, then they started throwing us in the prisons, making us pay for,
Probation
reports and probation fees and prisoner visit fees on phones. It's nuts, ain't it? I mean, it's just, enough is enough,
Enough is enough. Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
not the Bank of America, us weed smokers,
Right. God, they talk about, targeting the most calm and gentle population too. It's like, well, okay, I mean, a weed smoker is even less likely to fight the cops, like that's
a little story we used to do. We get all high and stuff in our neighborhood, and we'd wait for the cops to get just close enough to where we knew we could run across the street. They wouldn't hit us, but we give them a good scare. So 3 o'clock in the morning, us hippies are out there running around aggravating police all night. That's what we really did. We had a lot of fun with it. And boy, he'd wall his tires and jump out of that car. We was already over a few neighborhoods down the street. There was no way he was going to catch us, That's more of that freedom we had to, But that was because they were mean to us potheads,
Right.
So torture them, we'll torture you back, in a nice way.
Yeah, I love it. We'll get high first and then we'll torture you back and giggle
Right.
about it. Well, we have got to pause this conversation so we can make time for some messages from our sponsors. But when we come back, hopefully Alfie McKenzie will join us, aka Reeferman Genetics, and join this amazing conversation that we're having with breeder OG Greg right now. But stay tuned, guys. We will be right back.
Everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it can make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that it actually will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Welcome back to Calling All Growers, everyone. I'm your host, Liz Grow, and I have with me tonight breeder OG Greg, a true OG cultivator and breeder out of Missouri, but you've probably smoked his stuff if you've been enjoying cannabis for the last 3 decades. So welcome back, Greg.
Hi, Liz. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited about the possibility of having your friend Alfie from Reeferman Genetics join, but sometimes things happen, and we'll catch him the next show.
Right, sounds good.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a meme that you shared the other day. I thought it was hilarious. On the top part of the picture, you've got maybe 3 or 4 surfers on a big wave.
Right.
And it says, I won't even know. I can't even say what it says. I'll just say the picture. The top, we've got 3 or 4 surfers. On the bottom, we've got about 20 surfers jammed onto one little wave. And it was a meme about breeders. Talk to me a little bit about that and why it's actually really, really funny.
Shoot, I can't even remember sending that.
It was like something like, I knew I would butcher it, but it's something like breeders, then, and breeders now. Like everybody is a breeder. Everyone's trying to make their own, new
Right.
strain, hot new
Yeah.
strain.
All right. Now I remember. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
No, that it every day, nowadays people are trying to take strains that they don't know what they're doing to develop, and they're only destabilizing the genetics of the plant.
Okay.
And the problem is that science and big tech, they're looking at these seeds that these, don't want to call them idiots, but these misinformed people, and they want to take these seeds and Monsanto them, make them disease resistant, mold resistant, do the things that they did with our other food supply.
Mm-hmm.
And this is such a toxic relationship for science and Monsanto to look at our seeds and say, hey, we can do this. Now, wait a minute. Us old school growers have been dealing with the past and everything that goes down the line with it. It's just part of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a solution for it, and science needs to stay out of it when it comes to altering the way cannabis seeds are. It's like I said, you need to go back to the land races and develop these strains that, that tried and tested, start from the beginning, because it's just become disastrous. You're going to get these mixed in, these genetically modified organic seeds into our cannabis seeds, and it always leads to disaster.
Right. Disaster, as in we potentially, we run the risk of losing these sacred genetics that have been cultivated and created by the earth. No man, did the true Acapulco gold. Mother Earth gave that to us, and good stewards of those genetics have been able to carry them on. But I love that you mentioned that and are saying that now. It's so very important, I think, for anybody who's listening to understand that while science and playing mad scientist is fun and fascinating, and creating your own strains, you probably feel like God. But listen to the words that breeder O.G. Greg says, and consider what the future looks like without these landrace strains. I mean, is that too dramatic?
It's the truth. You look at these poor nations, they don't have to be poor. They're growing some of the finest genetics on the planet. And it's the government blocking them from coming in. They deem it devil's weed, of course, because they call it super potent marijuana. Of course it's super potent marijuana. It's exactly what we want, and we need to be able to walk into a place and purchase it, e-commerce each other from, they can enjoy some success, and they deserve, well, they don't have to live in poverty if we expand the cannabis market globally to them. It don't make sense to me.
No.
There's only a few regions in the world that truly grow the best. Yeah, it's fine to buy, grow your own and mix up a little bit, but we need to take a serious approach at empowering these poorer nations with the good strain landrace genetics that we're going to need to make sure the future of cannabis is here forever.
Absolutely. What are some of those regions that you're thinking of right now?
Afghanistan, Thailand, South America, most of the places down there, most of on the equatorial places. That's where you get the most sun.
Yeah.
And
the poorest places. Truly,
Right.
The poorest places. It's truly, that's twisted. But I mean, it's greed, right? At the end of the day.
It is. There's so many, like Russia. They've got so much wild, hemp that their discoveries can come from all kinds of places, but we're not tapping into it because big tech and science thinks what they have is good enough. They can just improve whatever they're failing at somewhere in a a lab, and it's not right,
Right. And then, there's that nationalistic point of view that we can just do everything better.
And we can't. In reality, best we can do is mimic their environment in North America and get a strain close to what they do, and that's a fact, and that'll always be the fact. So why do we leave them in the dark of the cannabis industry? It won't hurt us because a lot of these dispensary owners wouldn't have to grow it and all that stuff. They could just pass the buck, so to speak, go this way, go that way. They'll be able to sell a better product. And then the home grower can do his thing like the dispensary growers do, basically some unique blend, unique aromas, flavors, whatever, because it's a standard when it comes to the land race is what you're going to get, once they're stabilized.
So this I think vision of a global cannabis community economy. I mean, that's just such a dream. It really is, I think, for a lot of folks in this industry, or a lot of folks who love the plant. And at one point, I believe you used the term global companionship when we were talking about cultivators, helping each other and that network of cultivators growing. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Well, that a global network is basically like where we grow one, we grow all. It's basically where it's something that comes from the heart from anywhere on the planet. And I like to use that term, so it identifies who I am. Where we grow one, we grow all. And you can put it down to WW, one, WGA, where we grow one. I'm pretty high, so I probably got that part pretty wrong.
But I'm gonna write it down. Where we grow
one, we grow all. That is just a statement right there. That means we stand with each other all the way, no matter where we are, even if you're on the moon tomorrow,
Yes.
When you hear that, where we grow one, we grow all. We're together again.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. There seems to be a real environment, kind of a more aggressive environment today, I think, within the cannabis industry, because there is such a rush to be first to market and make all the money and yada, yada, yada. I mean, I think there's a real, that's missing. That feeling is missing, because of big cannabis. What do you think, how do you think we get it back, or can we get it back?
I don't know. I forgot the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's where we grow one, we grow all. That feeling of global companionship.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Out there.
I ask long questions too.
I think it's only going to exist there because it's the only place where color doesn't exist except for the color green, and it's not money. So it's the good green. Go green, they said. Well, what better way than where we grow one, we grow all,
Yeah, I love that.
It's a movement that's always been there. It has broken down the racism more than anything. In my lifetime, marijuana has just crossed all boundaries of who should be hanging out with each other. You'll hang out and smoke a joint with anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. There's an age limit, of course. You don't want too young a kid. We started very young age, so I'm I can't go into full details that make my mom look bad, but we're very, very young. We enjoy doing it as kids. I do it all over again, same way,
Yeah, I mean, that was the world you came from. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Nothing wrong with
that. The last effect of getting high on Acapulco Gold was a whooping from your parents because they knew you was tore up stoned on that stuff.
They could probably smell it and were a little jealous you didn't save any smoke for them, right?
You couldn't hide it. The red eyes gave it away. So we started getting Visine. So that was like, carry that around so you don't get beatings. All right.
You learn the tricks.
Yeah.
So you've been growing for a very, very long time. And I'm sure that you probably, I'm sure certainly you could write a book, but you probably know tips and tricks that you don't even realize are tips and tricks, right? Because you've been just doing it for so long. But what are some of those tips that you feel like first time growers or growers just getting into it should really know
Right. Well, I'd say you want to plan to grow outdoors, which not everyone can.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing is to start your plants in January and start getting them prepared to get ready to set outside.
Okay.
This way, don't ever take the risk of putting them out when it's cold. By the time you start them in January, you'll be able to top them, let them get up about a 3 branches, and just start topping them from there. Goes up another 3, top it again, 3 there. You only have to do it a few times like that, and it'll give you a nice set of colas on your plants. Now, a lot of people say don't do it 3 times. That's how we did it. It was in the picture years ago in the book. It said top it every 3 nodes, take it off there. So that's what we did, and they always threw out very nice plants. If the stems couldn't handle it, well, we had things where we knew that the buds were too big, so we'd break the stems a little bit and then tie it back up. That way, when we come back, we knew that it was stronger this time. Because when you had to harvest, it was, you could only come every so often to water your plants or check on them. So you knew later on this plant was going to collapse. So we could break it at that point right there and then tie it up with rope. When you come back, it'd have a big old knot and it'd make sure it hold up the rest of your plant. So there was a lot of tricks that we used to help us harvest. And then the harvest was terrible. It was shoving it in plastic bags and people running in panic, take hours to get to the place where you got it. Then you had to pull it out and it looked like a mess,
Yeah.
So those
Yeah.
days are over, and I'm glad I can just, nicely take the plant and not be rough with it and take care of it, cure it up nice. It's nice to cure it at around 58 degrees as long as you can, couple weeks, 58 degrees, and then you can bring it up a little bit in the mid 60s. Anything over 70 degrees, 68 degrees is going to ruin the aroma of it. So if you can keep the soil at 68 degrees and all the way through, you'll have a really, nice smelling plant, but it's impossible to do. But that's the whole thing behind it, to keep it always under 70 degrees the entire plant's life, and you'll have some of the best smelled, cured, dried stuff you ever smoked in your life.
Wow, what's funny is I don't think I've really had this conversation in depth with any grower about the temperature of the plant itself overall.
Veg and everything, If people want the true flavor, that's how it's done, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work. I mean, can you really do that? Can you do that outside? I mean, I guess it's just all dependent on the environment. Like Northern California is probably
right. You could check the soil temp and see if it's if it's at under 70, 68, then it could be achieved outdoors, as long as the outside temperature is like that. Like a greenhouse could support that if you wanted to keep that. So you'd want to use it in a greenhouse.
Okay.
Make sure you keep your temperatures below that,
Okay. But yeah, super helpful for indoor growers. I mean, just keep it under 70 and
definitely. And
sweetest
heat
mama.
buildup, it just starts cooking it up. But use a lot of things. Use rabbit manure in the beginning. I would say that works really good because it's slow release and it won't hurt it later in the grow. So
and it's little pellets, so it's easy to scatter, right?
yeah, pellets. I like toss and stuff. I'm more of a sprinkler than anything when it comes to growing. I like to use is the cucumber peeling ashes and the wood ashes are great for putting on monstrous buds on plants towards the end there.
Do you massage that into the soil? You massage that ash in the soil? How do you put
Just
that?
sprinkle over the top and water it in. And then another great thing to use is hydrogen peroxide. I use that to keep the pests off. I won't use anything other than that. Spray that all over your plants and take a 360 hose sprayer, and you got to work it. Don't use the chemicals that hurt bees and stuff. Put some work into it, especially when you're switching over from veg to flower, and make sure you do the hydrogen peroxide, 3% pure. It ain't going to hurt your plant. The byproduct is just water and oxygen, so you won't have to worry about that, what it's doing to your plant. People panic when they hear that, but it's actually healthy for you. Rainwater has traces of hydrogen peroxide in it. So that's another good thing to use on that. So there's just, I'm starting to do articles and stuff, skunkweedworld.com. I'm going to get the URL, whatever. I'm gonna get something paid up where you get the .com on it, but it's Skunkweed World right now. And I'll be releasing all kinds of cool information on how to save plants. I know how to clone plants, like 100% success rate with just saran wrap, a bucket, clear little plastic cup, and you'll never lose a plant again if you follow the ways I do this. I just brought back a plant that was like totally dead. It had no roots. It sat there for 2 weeks. Somebody challenged me, said, can you go even longer? So I did. And I brought that back to life. It's simple. It's for, small growers. It'd be hard to do it on a large scale,
Yeah.
A bucket here, a bucket here, a bucket here. But a little drinking plastic cup, the soil a little bit wet, put them in the white buckets, and then put your saran wrap over the top with rubber band and put it in the less shaded lighted
Okay.
areas in your room. But
Uh-huh.
never take it out of the veg light room. That's the number one thing. Never let from seedling to clone, whatever, always keep it in that veg room, because it won't grow right if you don't do it like that.
And so you take it's you got your big white plastic bucket, you got your soil, you take the zombie plant that you brought back and you put it
Just like in a
in.
little solo cup, a little
Yeah,
plastic solo cup. So you can put
yeah.
like 3, 4 in a regular size bucket.
Okay.
If you want to save a really big, let's say you got a plant that's like this size, and like,
Yeah.
man, I need to save this. What do I got to do? It's looking like it's dying. You'd actually have to find a container bigger than this is all you need. And then, white clear would be nice. Get it enclosed in a container, whatever you got. Then cover the top of it with plastic, spray some water around in the area of that. And I guarantee it, your plant will come back. So you don't have to lose any of your plants anymore. The bucket depends on the size of your clones. You start small, you can use a small bucket, a tea pitcher. It depends on what plant you're trying to save. And the worst thing you can do is lose your plants. So what I do in the beginning is for the seeds is I cut the belly button off the end of the seeds. And when you cut the belly button off the end of it, it gives it more of a chance to come out faster. It gets the process to speed up. So within 3 to 5 days, they're already out. You even got green leaves on them. So I got to be careful when I get them out. I put them in little small containers, and I'll cover it with that saran wrap again, just to make sure, and take it off day by day until it can live on its own, because the price of seeds, you got to develop, ways to save anything, and stuff like that. So
absolutely.
And then same way with the seeds, you put it in between 2 paper towels with the, after you cut the belly button off, saran wrap, rubber band, stick it in the low lighted area of your room, always leaving it even in your 16 hours, because it just will perform better. You don't want to stress it out at all when it's taken off in its life.
Right. Of course. Yeah. It's you want it to, start strong and continue on and not be stressed too early.
Right. But some people will re-veg it, actually. They don't even realize they're re-vegging it by putting it in the dark too long, and then they're trying to, why ain't it taken off? Well, this is why it ain't taken off. You just got to have this routine with every one of them, and it's simple to follow, simple to do. It don't cost a lot of money. It's cheap to do. And,
I love that. I'm so grateful that you shared that, because that is.
Of course, if you have any issues with your plant, and so this is a great benefit too, because sometimes it unlocks hidden gems in the plants. You could use chelated iron. If your plant's looking sickly, sure, just throw some of that on there. And that is like the number one, like a Band-Aid, so to speak, for your plant. I've always used it ever since I was younger, because I was told that it could unlock secret genetics in your plant. So I hit it with that maybe once, not every grow, but every once in a while, just because, I like to use it. And
what is that again? Say that again.
Chelated iron.
Chelated iron.
Fertiloom makes the product, chelated iron.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been using theirs for many years, on stuff, but usually only if it has a problem. If it don't have a problem, I won't use it, that way. You don't want to create a problem in your plants. But if it's doing healthy and don't need it, that's fine, But anytime you're having issues, and we are having a lot of issues with viruses coming in from tobacco virus and latent hops coming in from the hops. It's, it's pretty devastating what it's doing to the cannabis world right now. I think they did a pathogen test on all dispensaries, and 45% of them had pathogens. So if we
Wow.
don't watch ourselves here and get clean and sterile in the business, we may not be able to be around a cannabis plant while it's growing. It'd have to actually be sealed away from humans just to keep these diseases and stuff off of them. So it's not good. Now, the tobacco industry and hops have already been dealing with it. It's just something new for us.
So how do we take care not to, spread disease and
Well,
prevent
by
it?
keeping it clean, they say hydrogen peroxide is a great cleaner for your tools and stuff before you cut the X-Acto knife, hydrogen peroxide, put it on, your tools, cut the seeds off. You can spray your bowl with the seeds in it, just a little mixture of hydrogen peroxide and water. That'll make it sterilized. My seeds are real healthy when they got just a little bit of hydrogen peroxide in the water, and they just look so much prettier and healthier. So it definitely works in that too, and it's been recommended by a lot of people to use it.
Really? I can't wait to pop some seeds. Because that cutting off the belly button, it's like,
yeah, it's so cool.
That's like shocking to me, because I feel like, oh no, you don't want to screw it up.
Exactly. People are like, here, I got $250 seed here. What do you want me to do? I'm like, watch this. I'm going to start cutting on it. They panic. But it's fine.
What's the most expensive seed you've ever popped?
Oh, I'd probably say
Or most valuable, I should say.
Well, RKS I'm running them right now. They're supposed to be open pollinators, RKS times, roadkill skunk. So that is the most expensive seeds I ever purchased here recently. So I'll soon know how that project turned out, but I like them. They got a great smell to them. They're just now coming up, and I usually don't have to pay for them, but the gimmick's there. Everybody wants the roadkill skunk. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to buy these and see what happens. So
that's cool.
You should soon find out what happens on that.
Very cool.
I'll give an update on that.
Please do. Please do. I mean, Missouri isn't too far from Texas. Okay.
No, I've been down there a few times.
All right. Okay. So you have you noticed any trends or innovations within the past couple of years as more states have started to legalize with growing or breeding?
I really feel bad about these states that ain't enjoying our success in these legal states. I just feel sorry for them. I wish I could help them. And I don't know. I was thinking about that earlier today. I was like, we need to form like a Million Munchie March and go up to Washington D.C. and get these other states to stop abusing their citizens and pass this law to legalize it.
Yes, absolutely. I love that Million Munchie March. You would have 30
Million Munchie March.
I mean, you would have millions of Texans join that Munchie March.
That's what they say. They are our people. Cannabis people. It's time we free them in all the states. I wish I could help them, but I can't. The best I can do is join a march or something like that. That would inspire the rest of the nations to stop this abuse in America and legalize cannabis in all 50 states.
Amen. Well, you are doing a huge service by teaching and sharing the information that you have, because you know what? Just because we can't grow in Texas don't mean we don't grow in Texas, if you know what I'm saying. And, we're kept from this information, and people, breeders like you and shows like this really, serve to shine a light and to create a connection, I think, that way. And that's how I think, legalization has really taken hold. I think more people, people misunderstand the plant, but they get closer to it and then they understand, and then they start to vote or, start to invest and then states jump on. So before we leave, I want to ask a very, very important question, Greg, before we wrap up. And I asked this question of all of the experts, master growers that I have on the show. What is the number one mistake that growers can make?
Number one mistake they can make is purchasing the wrong seeds. You put all that effort and time into all you do, and you find out that you wasted your money. And So the best advice is to find the right seeds. It's always been said from generation to generation, you know, if one joint don't do it, then throw it away and go find something that will, because there's plenty of weed out there that one joint will do it, you know, even less than that.
Right, right. But your seeds come from friends and the seeds that you've kept, and then most recently this roadkill skunk that you bought. Where did you purchase it? Just curious.
Strain Link was one of the places that you can purchase on there.
Mhm.
There's a lot of just forums, you know, word of mouth, Twitter. Anytime you almost post a picture of some good weed, everyone comes running direct, message me, send me some seeds. Where's the seeds? You know, so that needs to really be, you know, in the forefront for us breeders to allow us, like the brewers and with their beer, to sell our seeds to whoever we want, just like they have the right to sell the beer, you know, to the public. So
Yeah, it's
that's a
just a
lot of work
seed.
breeding and keeping genetics, you know,
Mhm.
preserved for generations and generations. You know, it's a lot of work, and it always will be, this business.
Absolutely.
And I'm just happy that I get good seeds and still have a good selection of seeds, and people love me because, you know, the weed's good, right?
Absolutely. I'm sure they have a couple other reasons to love you too, but that the good weed is definitely a door opener,
That's
I would
right.
say.
You got to get you in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I asked you a question while we were on break, but I have to know, good breeders in Texas, good growers in Texas. Do you know any?
Let's grow. That's about all I know so far. Can't remember anyone from in Texas. Texas was the pipeline for us. I mean, it's when I think of Texas, I never think of just one grower. They were
Right.
the pipeline to middle America.
Yeah.
And we had such a perfect relationship of, here it comes our way, we got something your way. It just ebbed and flowed for so many years. And it was weed we were dealing with, you know, in them days and stuff. I'm sure
Mhm.
there was a little bit of coke. It was the 70s. It was around too. But the relationship was more based on our love for marijuana and Texas access to get it right through the border to, you know, middle America, because we could then send it out to the East and the West Coast. It wasn't so easy to run a bunch through to California because they had a good eye on it in that spot.
All
But
right.
Texas has suffered from that consequence a long time of allowing anyone across the borders to get it over there. So it's I got a lot of respect for Texas for their hard work they did to supply us during it all, you know.
I love that. Makes me very proud to hear. Very proud to hear. And hopefully someday here soon, you'll be hearing about Texas breeders and growers because it'll be legal. Um, but until then, we always love to share tips and tricks and secrets for those home growers wherever you're growing, whether it's a state that's legal or not yet legal. Um, but Greg, I love the conversation so much today. Thank you for coming on. Will you come back?
I sure will. Maybe we can do a seminar on how to grow, and I can bring a couple friends with me, and we can have a blast doing that.
I would love that. How do people find you?
You can email me at breederoggreg@gmail.com. And on LinkedIn and Twitter, I just rejoined social media again, which I was out for many years.
Yay.
I used to have to reach millions and millions of people for so many years. I mean, I had a lot of fun doing the Facebook thing, and they banned me for life, and that's the best thing they could have done for me, because
Yeah, it
I've
gave you your
enjoyed
life
my life
back.
outside of it a lot, you know. And so I'm coming back to, you know, the social media group, and plan on having a lot of fun this time, because it's the cannabis industry. I'm done with the politics, and I'm just going to talk about how fun it is to get high and how rewarding it is to get healed from marijuana.
Beautiful. And you'll inspire so many more with that conversation. Truly, truly. Well, I hope to see you on Twitter, because I'm back on Twitter too. I'm at Liz_grow. So I hope to see you there, and we can keep our conversations going, because I've really, really enjoyed them. Really
Thanks,
enjoyed them,
Liz.
Greg. Yeah. So, guys, that's all the time we have for tonight's show, but we will be back on June the 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for our live webinar, where you'll learn from the best in Humboldt County, Miss Wendy Kornberg and James Buer. Calling All Growers is produced by Pro Cannabis Media with help from Grow House Media and generous support from our sponsors. And again, a reminder, in 2 weeks, I will see you in 2 weeks on Wednesday, June the 22nd for our Calling All Growers webinar. Until then, I'm Liz Grow and I'm calling all growers. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
Difference is building a solution for that individual. Not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the cost low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.